atomic gigantification was a sweeping Japan nation when along came a dude with an ultra attitude, a Kamen Rider who's the greatest kicker of Japan. And of all, man, life's too short now, baby, to not talk big now, baby.
Broadcasting across the globe from Two Guys' Room, this is Kaiju Conversation. I'm your host, Elijah, and joining me, as always, my lovely co-host and editor.
Hello, I am Rex.
Rex, it has been a
little while.
very long time.
It feels like forever.
Honestly, like when we've been honestly, you and I have been on this call for almost 2 hours now, and we've just been catching up. We've been talking. We've been planning. We've been.
You're making it sound like we haven't talked in like 4 months.
Okay, but you and I have not had. I mean, we've called like 3 times in the last 4 months.
What do you mean 3 times? It's been more than 3. Okay, 3 times is just how many times you can remember.
How many times do you remember?
At least like 7 or 8.
7 or 8?
Yes, if not more.
Okay. But either way, not as much as like we normally do. I feel like there's a lot that we haven't like talked about, and like there's just
definitely. Definitely.
Some of it's good, some of it's bad, some of it's okay, whatevs.
So much time has passed since the last recording. Like what, like 4 months or something?
5 months.
Oh, God. What do you mean it's been 5 months already?
We stopped mid-December.
That's horrifying. What do you mean it's April?
It's wild. It's crazy.
Oh, that is...
here's something funny. The last episode, I believe it's in our last episode. I don't think it's our last episode, but it might be the episode before. I say, or it was in the last bunch. I say, I got a girlfriend. And now it's like we're getting close to celebrating 6 months.
Wow. Oh,
yeah.
Wow, you guys witty. I didn't even realize. Oh my God.
My God,
I didn't even thought of that.
We just celebrated our 4 months 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're over halfway to the 5 month mark, and then it'll be 6 months after that. So
nice. Sounds like things going good in that department.
I'll dive into that a little bit later, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. But that was just to kind of articulate just how much time has passed.
Yeah.
I've grown a beard.
Yeah.
That's one thing, I guess, is I've grown a beard.
Honestly, my appearance has mostly stayed the same.
Your hair looks better.
Thank you. I agree. I don't like when it's super short. I think last time we recorded, that was like right before I had a haircut. That was bad. It wasn't what I wanted. It's short,
but it's not what it was. The really long with you doesn't really. You look like goth or something. I haven't figured it out. Depressed. I think it's depressed.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
But
brutal.
But
wow.
Like now, like the short, you just look like you're being preppy with that short hair. But now it's like you look cash. You look cash. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean for me, like ideal hair length is like that short, but not like standard short, not that standard short. Like I like having at least a bit of length on my hair at minimum.
You got to have a little bit of length. If you don't have a little bit of length, it's like it ain't worth it.
That's what she said.
Just give up.
And yeah, because I just generally prefer like longer hairstyles, looks wise, but not like super long, not like David Grohl hair, you know.
Yeah. Now, before we keep going, I can already tell. Like, people are going to be like, okay, I came here for giant monsters and kaiju, and I'm getting hairstyle talks.
We'll get there.
Yes. Now, for anybody, this won't be a part of the title. Sometimes people do like parentheses plus recap. We don't do that here. We just keep it short and simple. But this episode will be a little more padded because it's been so long. It's been 4 months. So much has happened on the world of kaiju and tokusatsu, on the world of Rex and
the world in
myself,
general.
The world in general. There's tariffs. There's
until they went away, and the USD AUD conversion rate went down to something half reasonable again. Thank God.
There's dire wolves in the world. There's hairy rats.
Debatably dire wolves.
There's I'm trying to like Katy Perry's in outer space. Is she back?
She was only in outer space for like 10 minutes.
That's lame.
I know, right? What a waste of resources.
Honestly, like, if we're gonna go to outer space, I want to go for longer than 10 minutes.
Yeah, or like send people in outer space that are actually gonna do something.
Did she sing? I hope she sung E.T.
I don't think so, no. I think she just looked
hypnotizing. I don't know the rest.
And then, I don't know, kiss the ground when she returned or something.
Didn't she announce her tour? This is so off topic, but like, I'm pretty sure.
I don't follow Katy Perry, bro. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure I read that she announced her next tour in space.
Maybe. I don't know.
It was a whole publicity stunt. You know who needs to be in space?
Ben McCreary is touring Australia. I might go see that.
You should.
I might. I know he's playing. I know he's playing the Blue Oyster Cult Godzilla.
Good.
I think that's the first one in the set list. But I think that's the only Godzilla.
On his last tour, that was like one of his last songs. He like came out with Eric Bloom to do the guitar. And then and it's like a whole new rendition. It's not the Blue Oyster Cult one, and it's not the King of the Monsters one. It's like his own new.
No, it's really good. Like the clips I've seen of that, it's really good.
Yeah, you should absolutely do that. That'd be really cool.
I think I do. I think I will. I think the tickets are on sale now. Actually, maybe I'll get them after the recording. Who knows? We'll see.
If you do take pictures and videos, and
obviously,
when you go, you'll have to talk about it because that sounds really cool,
bro. Obviously, bro. If I'm going, I'm absolutely talking about it. You know.
So, I guess we should dive right into what else is going on in our lives. Rex, we can start, I guess, in December. Christmas. I had a pretty good Christmas.
Yeah, mine was good. I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember when most of the things that I have in my notes happened. I just know they happened.
Fair enough. I have a couple things that I remember. A couple things I don't remember. Time frames. I guess we could just kind of start rolling them off.
Yeah, I guess you go first, okay. Honestly.
Well, then I'm going to start with my Christmas / a very recent thing. You're going to be hearing a lot about my girlfriend because... Okay, as anybody would expect, most of my life has been working at my job, working on SRS stuff, or now my girlfriend. And in between all that, I sleep and eat. So my girlfriend for Christmas got me a extreme zoom lens, which was really cool. She got me a new camera bag, a couple of camera caps, like lens caps, a battery charger, and that was really nice. And then just the other day, she got me an early birthday gift, which I have a video camera. I have a Blackmagic cinema camera, pocket cinema camera, 6K, which it does do stills, but it doesn't do video, or its primary is videos, right?
Mhm.
I need a photo camera that can do photos as its primary, but video as its secondary. And so I was looking at the Canon Rebel T5, the second newest Rebel T model out there. And, she was actually planning on buying me that for Christmas, but the one she got didn't work out. It was a whole thing, and it was fine. I told her it was okay. But for an early birthday gift, she bought me a Canon Rebel T7 with a 18 to 55 millimeter lens. So now I have a 17 to 44, an 18 to 55, and I'm trying to remember what the lens is for the extreme zoom, but it's like up to a 77. So it's like an extreme zoom. It's really cool. So she got me that. And that was really nice of her to do that, because that wasn't a cheap investment whatsoever. But I think best birthday gift, maybe. There's one thing that competes with it, and that's getting the TJ Storm video. I almost cried at the TJ Storm. I had a tear come for the camera. It's kind of like they're competing,
Nothing's beating TJ Storm. Screw off.
But that's a very good thing for me to start on, is that I got a photo camera. So now I'm going to be doing graphic design work, video stuff, writing stuff, and photos. So now I can really start working on getting my portfolio built. So there's one thing from me. Now, Rex, let's hear something from you.
Oh God. God,
I got a couple updates, so we can just kind of go back and forth and share some fun stuff that happened, and then move on.
Good God, so much has happened. Like, I became a Twin Peaks fan. New Gundam, Shin Gundam came out. That.
We'll talk about what Toku we've watched after the life
that's
updates.
Not Toku, but yeah.
we'll cover entertainment too this time around.
Oh, okay. Then I'll skip my Mike story then. Okay, sure. Knotfest happened. I was in a cycle. There was a cyclone that kind of happened, but then decided to sort of not happen, but still did. God, so much. I encountered an old friend from my primary school. Actually, two. I encountered two of them recently, which was crazy. Oh, yeah, and the big thing, I moved out.
Really? You didn't tell me that.
Yeah, I originally was going to tell you, but then I never got a chance to. So then when we did finally start properly finding time to speak again, it was when we were always going to be oh yeah, this week we're doing the Viras recording. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I haven't had a chance to tell you now. I'll wait till Viras. And every time we've delayed this a month or something.
Yeah.
So it's every time it's just one more week, just one more week, just one more week, and I'll surprise him. But then I kind of spoiled it when you saw my camera the other day. That kind of spoiled it a little.
Okay, but I thought you had just flipped your room around, because it's very similar. It's very similar still.
Not really.
Okay,
not to me. It's a lot less yellow with lights, and the floor's not carpet. It's a wooden floor.
Oh well, I never saw your floor.
It's fine.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you this. Did you move out with your friend? I know you had mentioned that. I don't remember if that was on recording or off recording, but I know you had been talking about it.
Yeah, I live with two friends, yes. They are brothers, so I live with them.
Well, that's exciting. Well, congratulations. I'm happy for you. I'm very happy.
Thank you. It was an unexpected... It kind of unexpected. I wasn't expecting it to happen as quick as it did, but I'm not complaining about it.
Yeah, I know, because when we were talking, you're like, it might happen. I'm going to wait, maybe after college. And then here we are. But that's wild. So I
Yeah,
actually,
the opportunity just kind of fell because of the cyclone. Actually, was when this first came up. The
so I
cyclone
actually,
happened. My friends lost power, and so the one of them and their mother came over to my place to talk with me and my mother, and yeah, things just happened from there.
so I actually have a kind of similar story, not as grand or positive, but I have a
Mm,
story.
mm,
So I live on my own now, not intentionally. So one of the things I've been doing in the last 4 months is I've been cleaning the house. Every room's clean now. Everything's clean. My girlfriend is slowly starting to move in, which is really funny. So that's really fun. But that's not to say that it's all in good, fashionable fun. So I'm gonna get a little dark here. But this is something I've been kind of weighing on if I was going to talk about this.
mhm.
Because this is like personal life. But like I did say like I got a girlfriend. And like I've been personal on the show before. So I figured I can be, plus this is technically podcast related because they've been on the show. Um Back when I was really starting to get back into everything, when Kaiju Weekly was still a thing. I had just done a podcast with them on the movie Them, and that's where I decided to do a podcast about this topic. So my mother, whom I lived with, moved out to stay with my grandparents. Due to some health things, she moved out to help with that. And this is a little weird because you're going to be very quiet because you know where this is going. So about 2 months in, my grandfather's he had a couple strokes last year, and there's been some times you guys don't know this because editing and post production's a beautiful thing. But we've had to stop recordings because I recorded at their house. I would go over and I'd record. I had to stop and I had to go help get him off the floor.
Mm.
One time I even had to take him to the hospital. And then we came back. I came back and finished the recording. I don't remember which episode that was, but that was kind of what was going on. They celebrated their 65th wedding anniversary in January. My grandparents. For anybody who is curious on why I said it's related, so I interviewed both my grandparents because their first date was in 1954, and they went and saw the movie Them, and that was their first date together. They were 10 and 9 and 10. My grandfather's mother took them to the theater to watch Them. So
Wow.
so they had their wedding anniversary. I went. And the following day I was at work and I got a call, and it was, you need to get to the hospital. Something happened and we are probably going to lose him. By the time I made it to the hospital, it was too late. And so I've been tackling that. It's been a roller coaster between the celebration of life and the memorial service, and then when a family member passes, family members go crazy. And my family's no stranger to that. So one of the things was I had to move my recording operations, so now we're recording at my house and not there. There's also other reasons, and just things like it took me an hour total to drive to and from there. I can't really do that now that I have a girlfriend and I'm working and I have other jobs and other responsibilities and all that. So I moved my recording operations here. But that's been a difficult situation, to say the least. But yeah, so that's kind of a negative thing. Both of us, again, our lives parallel. Both of us are on our own essentially now. Which, it is what it is. I just take it every day, it's been 3 months now, as of yesterday, actually. 3 months as of yesterday. It still hits. It's still like, I still think I'm never going to hear his voice again. Stuff like that. But, you can't let it control your life. You can't let it take over your life, You mourn, you acknowledge your emotions, you acknowledge how you feel, and you get over it and move on. That's how I look at it, at least. The world's still spinning. I still have 100,000 things I need to do in my life. And, stuff like planning for G-Fest. I can't say a lot, but I am doing panels at G-Fest this year. So that's one of the things I've been doing. It's been a little crazy because of all that. I haven't done as much as I think I would be doing. But I digress. After that whole thing, I actually transferred jobs. I changed my job from where I was. I still work for the same company, but I did a lateral move. I'm still management, but I'm in a different area. Little bit better hours, which is nice. So that's all been stuff I've been doing. I'm starting to work on a new short film. It's not kaiju related. It's actually for SRS Cinema. I think I can basically say it because it's been announced. I'm working on an Amityville anthology movie. I'm directing one of the shorts, which is pretty fun. First, I guess, commercial, air quotes, underground commercial gig. So I'm pretty excited for that. Other good news, I might be working for another Blu-ray label very soon. I'm just kind of waiting to see. There has to be certain contracts that have to be signed and certain agreements and money to be spent that I'm not involved in, but I'm conjointly involved in, thanks to a friend of mine. And we'll see what happens. I'd love it if it goes through. It'd be really cool. Definitely can't wait to tell you guys if it does happen. I can't wait to tell you guys more about that.
Yeah.
I also got a kind of promotion at SRS.
Nice, congrats.
I can't talk too much about it, but it's really exciting and more could be happening. And so it's just kind of waiting and seeing what all is going on. I will be able to talk about one of the things very soon. Once we, iron out all of the details and we make the agreements and we decide on what we're doing, and I'll be able to talk about that. I got to work on Hoshi 35. I can talk about that. I did a video introduction for the movie. Unfortunately, we didn't have the time or budget to do an audio commentary, although I would have loved to have done that. But, never say never. There might be another opportunity to do that in the future. We'll see. Working on Outer Man now. I haven't watched the movie yet, but I'm working on the research now for the audio commentary. So that's really cool. I'm really excited to be doing all that. That's stuff that, I get to enjoy, and I get to, forget about some of the crazy stuff and go back to that and, enjoy life a little bit. Of course, I've been buying a couple of, Playmates figures or keychains or whatever. Just kind of small stuff. My girlfriend, actually, I don't think I told this, but my girlfriend, for one of our, I think it was for our 3-month anniversary, I think. I don't remember. Maybe it was Christmas. I think it was. I don't remember. But she actually made me a Godzilla plushie. She knitted and like stuffed this little Godzilla plushie. It's really cute.
That's fire.
Yeah. So that was something really, really nice. So he's got like a big chubby head and little black eyes. It's really cute. I love it. So yeah, that's been pretty much what I've been doing. Actually, that's all I've been doing. One last thing I did do is on my property there is a cellar which has been filled with trash bags for 20 years. So my girlfriend was talking about getting a grill, and I said, well, where are we going to store it? And she was like, well, maybe we can put it in your garage. And I said, I don't really want to do that. Let me clean out the cellar. So I've been, for the last like 2 weeks, I've been cleaning out the cellar. And this is like prime short, like horror movie film, like material. It's freaky deaky. It's cool. It's dark. I mean,
to be fair, what else are you going to use a cellar for?
Very true.
Other than your purposes.
Very true. Store grills, short film horror short films. Store tin cans. That's what cellars are for.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah. That's. I kind of took over the room here. I apologize, but that is basically in a nutshell been my life for the last handful of months.
Yeah, I mean that's the main stuff for me before we get into movies, really, as well.
Yeah, so
I went to Knotfest. I might have mentioned that already. I don't remember.
What was that?
I don't know. If I went to Knotfest. Do you even know what that is? Oh, it's a metal music festival.
Of course, you would go to a metal music festival.
Yeah, I've gone like the 3 previous years. Or 2 previous years, sorry.
Did they have that Japanese group you were talking about?
Oh, no, but they did have Baby Metal. They did have Baby Metal this year. Do you know?
Is that the group that like was accused of not being metal, and then was it like Ozzy Osbourne went on the internet and said, "You don't know what metal is, shut up"?
No, it was Rob Zombie. It was
Rob Zombie. Okay. So I do know. I know a little bit.
Yeah. Baby Metal's cool. The band that you were mentioning, the other band you were mentioning, Hanabiya, that's their name. Hanabiya is like kind of like I don't want to say a modern Baby Metal, but like a newer sort of like Baby Metal, I'd say.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I love Hanabiya. I'd never really listened to Baby Metal before, but they were fire. Slipknot was fire. Some of the other bands too. I'm blanking on the names, but yeah, it was fire.
Well, good. Now, before we dive into what
minus the food prices, those sucked.
I can imagine.
They costed me an arm and a leg.
So, before we dive into what entertainment we've watched, what Kaiju Tokusatsu, we do have a couple other things. I'd like to dive into some news beforehand.
Yep.
The first one that I think is going to be a little basic, just kind of like, oh, that's cool. Marvel has announced like 50,000 spinoffs with Godzilla. And like we're getting like Venomized Godzilla, a rematch with the Fantastic Four.
We just got Hulk Godzilla as well, I think.
Yeah.
I think they came out today.
Yeah.
I haven't read it. I did read Godzilla vs. Fantastic Four. It was decent. It was decent. I know nothing about Fantastic Four, but it was decent.
I know it's a rematch.
Oh yeah, because they do go against him in the original comic, don't they?
And then Avengers has a rematch.
Yeah, I think it's the new Avengers though.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah, it's not necessarily.
But I mean, they did just announce that Godzilla vs. the entire Marvel Universe comic.
Godzilla destroys the Marvel Universe. So that's really fun. I'm excited to see where that goes.
And there's like tributes to, and it's not just Godzilla as well, which is really cool. It's like Mechagodzilla,
Hedorah's in them.
Mothra, Ghidorah, Hedorah, Jet Jaguar.
Yeah, that's right.
In the new Avengers one, apparently. That's sick.
There's callbacks to the original Godzilla King of the Monsters comic book. Marvel did as well.
Yeah, with like the variant covers as well.
Variant covers, stylized, yeah. The logo sometimes. So no, it's really cool. It's really fun. It's really exciting. It's
better
wild
than Godzilla vs Kong vs Justice League.
Yeah, but
mainly because not all of the art is traced.
Yeah, that's true. It is wild to think though that like in the last 2 years we've had a IDW Godzilla comic, a DC comic Godzilla, Legendary Comics Godzilla, and Marvel comics.
Like, yeah, that is a bit crazy.
At this rate, I think the only things left is like Dark Horse and Vertigo. I'd kill to see Dark Horse reissue their Godzilla comics. I'd kill to see that.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. I think they have. I don't know how recent though, because there was like Godzilla. God, I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure there was like 1 or 2 trade.
I know they get reissued in Japan. Like they're in print in Japan.
Yeah, with Matt Frank artwork on the covers. Yeah,
and obviously translated. But yeah, it'd be cool to see them get reprinted.
I haven't read them. I
still need to buy the Marvel Godzilla Omnibus.
Yeah.
I really need that actually.
See, I own Godzilla versus the Fantastic Four. I have like 9 covers. It's wild how many covers there are of that. I don't know.
It's wild how many variant covers they do for comics nowadays in general.
That's the way they make money.
I know it is.
Yeah.
It's just wild.
But
the Mothra comic too that came out. It started coming out.
The Mothra comic.
It's not bad. I've read the first issue, and I think the second one comes out in like a week or something.
Doesn't like Immortal Mothra or
Primitive Mothra's in there. There's like Anguirus, Gorosaurus, a tiny. There's even like the original Rodan, like the concept art Rodan.
Oh,
in there. Yeah. It's cool stuff.
That's good to know. So I'm loving what we're seeing in the comic book scene. I think this actually transitions into, I think, another thing that we're getting is a Monarch prequel comic.
Yeah, it's kind of like that Monsterverse Declassified comic that's, I don't think that's out yet.
I don't think it is
coming. Or
no, isn't that about?
I think it got a digital release, maybe, or some part of it did.
So it's a prequel, right? It's about the sinking of the.
It's like 4 stories. That's why I brought up the the Monsterverse Declassified, where it's Abaddon, Behemoth, yada yada yada. So it's one that's like the Ion Dragon and the USS Laughter. So Bill Randa's backstory. You've got one that's about Kurt Russell in between the time when he's in the nursing home.
I'm sure that's going to be really entertaining.
It's going to be super interesting.
It's going to be him playing ping pong with old people.
I think my guess is it's just going to be him basically having PTSD, because I think there was like a preview image of I don't even remember what they're called. The bugs. What are they called in Monarch? I don't remember.
Oh God, I don't know. I don't even know half the names of the legendary monsters.
The bugs. I can't remember their name, but I'm going to look it up anyways. But it's got. So I think there's like an image of them. So he's probably going to have PTSD or something,
like nightmares or something.
Yeah. There's one that's. There's a third one about Kate and May set before season 1, and the last one is Kentaro, his father, maybe some of the other cast members, and Kong, like in between the end of season 1 and season 2, I guess. So or beginning of season 2.
So instead of making this all stuff that like they could show in the series for season 2, they're going to just put it into a comic.
I imagine it's just like season 2 was written and they're like, trying to figure out what can we do for this comic that doesn't interfere with season 2. What nothing stories can we tell, but we can still trace art of the legendary monsters.
Yeah.
I swear, not all the art, but the cover, literally all of the cover art, it's like traced.
And they want us to back it.
It's a Kickstarter too. It's like I get that almost every legendary Monsterverse merch that isn't like a DC comic or like a toy is like Kickstarter, but my god. You know.
Yeah, because they're doing 3 different covers: the Ion Dragon and the Lawton, Kentaro, his dad,
with the traced Kong,
and then we're getting the traced pictures of our actors with the Lawton.
Right. I mean, and
are they getting paid for and oh my god. So the one where it's like the actors.
Oh yeah, and there's one more story. There's one of Keiko in her time in like the Hollow or Axis Mundi. Sorry, that's the other story.
Keiko and the Bramble Boar.
Yeah,
there's a typo here.
No, that's its name in the show.
No, there's a typo in the description of that one.
Nice.
So it's to be announced on the Kate and May story as of right now. Digital wallpaper, graphic novel. You get the hardcover, so there's going to be hardcover and a soft cover, and then you get the variants. Standard cover concept art bundle, so you'll get the concept art of Monarch Legacy of Monsters. Yeah,
I think it's
from Weta.
Isn't it just those like 6 images that are already like on the thing?
It says art not final. Titans featured in these prints include Brambleboar, Endopede, Endoswarmer, Frostvark, Ion Dragon, and Mantle Claw.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Ion Dragon picture is actually new. I don't think we'd actually seen that image before, as far as I remember, at least.
And then you can also get the die-cut Ion Dragon Footprint Deluxe slipcase.
Right.
And then an enamel pin featuring... And there's a Kong enamel pin, Frostvark, Mantleclaw, Ion Dragon, Brambleboar, and Endopede. And then you can appear in it.
Yeah.
For $1,500.
Yeah, I think they had that for I think they do that for like the comics now. It's like, hey, you can appear in it for this much money.
Oh, and then I guess there's going to be Apex and Monarch scratch pins, a Monarch keychain, a Monarch t-shirt, a Kong plushie, a Godzilla Kong Fear of Missing Out bundle. So it's got the Hunted Declassified. Honestly, I'd almost just buy that. You're going to get a handful of Godzilla Kong the Hunted graphic novel, declassified graphic novel, slipcase, book plate, Reign of Pain print, enamel pins. Yeah. And then, yeah, you're right. I hate the art. See, I don't understand. Okay, first of all, why does Legendary really need to back this stuff? Like when okay, Godzilla's in this, right? Like, we're going to be getting Godzilla in this book one way or another.
Will we? I don't know. I honestly don't see Godzilla showing up in this comic.
May and Kate? Would it be in that one?
Maybe. I mean, Kate, I guess, I'm sure will allude to Godzilla in some capacity, but I don't know.
But I just it's Kong is in this book, right? Like, they had to have paid the actors for their likeness, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're still asking for it to get backed. Like, they want $75,000 to back it.
I mean, the thing is, I kind of just think they don't have faith in these comics succeeding if they don't do this.
Which makes me wonder how bad Godzilla Dominion, Kingdom Kong, Aftershock, and Awakening did, and that Kong Birth of Skull Island comic.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way that stuff did well.
Mm.
I mean,
Yeah.
Awakening's been completely removed from canon.
Hey, it's canon to the DC alternate monsterverse.
Yay!
Because that Shaw is in the new comic.
Yay!
For the 5 people, the one person. Is there a person that cares? I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
In other breaking news that also got announced today, so in the over the past few months, we've gotten quite a few casting announcements for the Grant Sputors Godzilla Kong. It actually started filming like what 2 weeks ago now?
Yeah, roughly.
In my state, so that's pretty cool. And just today, we got the announcement of Sam Neill, Dr. Alan Grant, coming to the film.
I'm not too surprised. Isn't he Australian?
No.
No, he's American. Yeah, he is.
No.
British?
He's Kiwi.
Oh, really?
Yes, he's Kiwi.
I didn't know that.
How did you not know that?
I thought he was from Australia.
No,
well, that's good to know.
He is in a few Australian movies. He's in quite a few of those. Like the only one I can think of is Ride Like a Girl.
Isn't Dan Stevens? He's British, or is he Australian?
Yes, British sounds right.
Okay. Well,
he was an Australian, but he did almost fool me in GXK. I almost thought he was.
So I'm not surprised. It's cool. Like I think it's really cool. However,
Alan Grant in a Godzilla movie, yes.
Okay, but Bryan Cranston 2014, John Goodman Kong Skull Island.
Okay, yeah, we know the MonsterVerse wastes good actors. We already know this. I've accepted that fate. But look, after Jurassic World Dominion, I'll take Sam Neill. He might actually care this movie.
You know, this marks what, the second or third actor from Thor Ragnarok to be in a Godzilla Kong movie?
Oh my god. I mean, they're filmed in the same studios.
Yeah. Oh.
Because they're both filmed in Village Road shows in Gold Coast.
It's a tax reason, right? That's why all films are shot in Australia now?
Yeah, there is a tax incentive. Actually, I think that's part of why Monarch went back to Japan, is because there was a tax incentive there.
Well, Toho also is co-producing it, so I'm sure there's even more.
That too. But yeah, there was a tax incentive that they took advantage of that I think is actually gone now.
Oh.
I think it was only for maybe 6 months or something, or a year.
For Japan?
Yeah.
There's probably a promo thing to get something or some studios to film in Japan. Japan does that a lot where they do limited time, we'll give you money to come to Japan, help boost our economy.
Yeah.
But I'm excited. So, okay, I'm actually interested and excited to see where Godzilla Kong 3 goes. Dan Stevens is back, which is a good thing.
Bro, he was great. He was the best new character.
Brian Tyrese Henry is not back, which is great. Kaylee Hoddle is not coming back, which is interesting. Adam Wingard is not producing, writing, or directing. Amazing. Terry Russio not coming back. Michael Dougherty not coming back. Zach Shields not coming back. Max Bornstein not coming back. Terry Elliott not coming back. This is great news. I kind of hope that Grant doesn't meet the you know how every new director since King of the Monsters, they've been all of us MonsterVerse directors got together for a meal.
We got to be a forced family.
Yeah, I really hope Grant doesn't do that, and he's just I was just I was doing my thing. Wingard
was just a job to me.
Yeah.
Paycheck.
Wingard was off doing his A24 movie and his Face Off sequel, and Dougherty's buying.
Okay, the
woolly
idea
rats.
of Wingard doing an A24 movie is so crazy. I'm not gonna lie. I've never thought about it for too long, but oh my god, that's crazy.
But I know people are like Dave Callahan, like Shang-Chi, Spider-Verse, Godzilla 2014, not a great record. Apparently, like, he didn't even really, like, his 2014 script was one of the earlier drafts. They just took influence from. He didn't really do a lot for Spider-Verse. So, like, I don't know, like, what has he done then that's like Wonder Woman 84 and Shang-Chi?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I can see where people would say that he's dubious at best. He rewrote Ant-Man.
Oh, he wrote the new Mortal Kombat movie?
He did. He also wrote the Expendables 1, 2, and 3. And 4. He actually did. Oh, no, he didn't do 4. He just did 1, 2, and 3.
Right, okay.
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
He just did 1.
He wrote Doom? He wrote the Doom movie?
Co-wrote it.
That's crazy.
So he only wrote the first Expendables. He rewrote Ant-Man. He wrote Zombieland Double Tap. And he wrote Wonder Woman 84 with Patty Jenkins and Geoff Johns.
Maybe it'll be good. I'm hoping. Please, be good.
I'm like 50-50 on it. I
kind of think... I think getting rid of Kaylee Hoddle and Rebecca Hall, I think that's kind of a misstep, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I feel like they're so ingrained in Kong's, like, mythos now. It's like you can't... Because now it's like, okay, so
Kaylee Hoddle especially.
Now they can't go back to Hollow Earth and visit the Iwi, right? Like, that just wouldn't make sense. It would be missing something. Unless they find, like, a savage tribe, like, if they try and, like, say there's more tribes of Iwi, which I guess they could do. But that means Mothra can't be involved, per se. I mean, she might be, but, like, not nearly as much.
Okay, but they didn't even acknowledge the egg. Mothra can still be involved. They can figure it out.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. We're just going to rewrite the part where Doherty said that there can only be one Mothra.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rebecca Hall, like, and the fact that, like, they were kind of building up there was, like, a subtle romance between Hall and Stevens. And there was the romance. They took both.
Stevens was so bi-coded in that movie. It's kind of low-key the best part.
It's really funny that they took both of his love interests away from him.
Yeah, I know. Poor guy. That's so sad.
Now, I do know a lot of people are getting upset because it's like, okay, well, none of these people, like Sam Neill and Dan Stevens, are the only ones that, like, anybody recognizes.
Bro,
it's
what?
like,
Matthew Modine? People know Matthew Modine. Even if they don't know his name, they know him. He's in Stranger Things.
Oh, that's right. I do. You're right. Yeah, they did announce.
He's the villain of season 1, and then shows up in later seasons.
Yeah, right now it's Caitlin Dever. Caitlin Dever, who, I mean, just looking quickly here at her filmography.
She's in the new Last of Us TV show, or the new season of that.
Sam Neill, we don't need to cover. He's done a lot of good stuff.
Alan Grant.
Yeah. The next one on this list is Jack O'Connell, which I don't... He was in 300 Rise of an Empire, Money Monster.
He's in that movie Sinners that I think came out like today.
Yeah, it's apparently really good.
Oh, good.
It's got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I will go see it.
Ferrari, 28 years later.
Oh, Delroy Lindo's also in Sinners. That's funny.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So we got the cast. Malcolm X. He's also in Malcolm X. Mr. Jones.
I mean, again, the thing is, like, I'm not really worried about, like, these new actors. Like, I'm completely fine with new faces. I'm more than happy for, like, Godzilla movie to bring in, like, up-and-coming actors, you know? Perfectly fine with me. It's just, like, the absence of Kaylee Hoddle, specifically, Kong-wise. I genuinely really think that's a misstep.
that I'm very interested to see how they tackle that. I think
Maybe she'll be in the movie for 5 minutes, if we're lucky. Maybe it'll be like Akane in Tokyo SOS.
See, my one concern is like if they were to kill her off.
I don't think they'll do that.
I don't think they will.
Do that.
But like, okay, Rebecca Hall established in GK that she's like one of the leading Monarch scientists. That's like went on and is one of the faces of Monarch. So if she's not in this, so is like okay, just thinking about it, does that mean that like it's going to be in Hollow Earth, or it's going to be on like, are they going to cut it to just one spot? Like,
bro, the leader of Monarch changes between movies.
Well, I'm not saying she's the leader of Monarch, but she's like the face of it.
I know.
But my point...
Like, they don't care that much about continuity.
I know, but there's so much here that's like, okay, how are you going to do this story now, this narrative, this world, without Rebecca Hall or Kaylee Hoddle? How are you going to, like... I'm very curious.
Like Kaylee Hoddle, like Rebecca Hall, no Rebecca Hall, I think would still be a misstep. I think it's a misstep, but I can see not including her, but still having Kaylee Hoddle and Dan Stevens.
Mm-hmm.
It really is just Kaylee Hoddle who I think is the big misstep of not including, because of that relationship with Kong. Don't get me wrong, GXK I think downplayed it too much. I don't think it was anywhere near as important as it actually should have been to the film, but yeah. I don't know. This skeptical, interested, but skeptical.
Yeah, I'm positive. I'm curious to see as more info comes out where we'll see this go. I know some people have tried to say like, oh, it's going to be outer space. I don't know. We'll see. I feel like I don't know. We'll wait and see. But there is one last piece of news before we're gonna switch into the mailbag that we have for today.
I don't even remember what that news is, if I'm being real.
Toho globalization.
Oh, right.
Toho announced during their quarter one of the fiscal year their plans to invest in the globalization of the company. They did file for a new trademark last year, Toho Global. You're seeing this in both Toei and Toho, and I'm sure you'll see this in Katakawa and whatnot as time goes on, but these Japanese companies are worried because their population's declining, their birth rate is decreasing, the economy in Japan is getting harder and harder to validate only serving that market. So these companies are branching out and being international. So Toho announced like a $1.7 billion investment. Or no, it was $17 billion. Was it $17 billion? No, it's 1.7. I think it's 1.7. $1.7 billion into their company, pushing for globalization, including anime and live action projects, along with just the Toho brand.
Right.
For Godzilla, they want to put in, I think it's like $250 million.
I thought I read 800 million, honestly, but
I've been told that numbers based off of the Bloomberg, I think it's like 200 or 300 million. It's in that ballpark.
Okay, right.
Where they want to invest in the globalization of Godzilla specifically.
Yeah.
They highlighted TV, streaming, broadcasts, which I believe is mostly just saying like Monarch, right? Because they co-produce that. Monarch Legacy of Monsters, Chibi Godzilla, Godziban. They've been subtitling Godzilla Island. Maybe Godzilla Land will get a subtitled version. Like, I think that's what that's saying. I don't think that's confirming live action Godzilla series. I don't think that's like Singular Point Season 2 is not happening.
Right. I mean, the image they use for this is of Chibi Godzilla,
Yeah. So, like, I fully expect that being more Chibi Godzilla, more Godziban, more Monarch.
Chibi Godzilla Season 3, let's go.
Like I said, I think Godzilla Land is slightly possible. I mean, I think once they get through Godzilla Island, they'll probably what's next? Godzilla the series, they don't have the rights to that, so it's Godzilla Island or Godzilla Land. That's the next thing after
They should
Godzilla
totally
Island.
release Adventure Godzilla 1 and 2.
They should.
Because those are just trapped to old Japanese VHS recordings that aren't online.
I think so. So
Bar,
I think
one episode.
right. I do think that Godzilla will venture into the world of anime again. Especially, we didn't talk about this, but the Godzilla manga, right?
Yes, I'm excited for that.
They revealed a sneak peek at the new monster, a space monster.
Yeah. We've seen the Gotengo and the little sneak peek of Godzilla. Elbow spikes are really are just in for modern Godzilla designs, I guess.
Yeah, because now that's what -1's Godzilla, and then
Evolved Ultima.
Oh, that's right. Ultima did have one.
Yeah. Bro, the arms basically looks like Ultima's arms.
So, I mean, look at Kaiju number 8. That's been very popular. Maybe with the new Godzilla manga, maybe that becomes a Godzilla anime series, Who knows? I'm not... Or, I'm not expecting that. I'm just expecting, a serialized manga that'll go for a while, what Gundam and Ultraman get. Well, let me ask you this. Do you think this Godzilla manga will get translated since the -1 novelization's getting translated?
Maybe. The Gamera Rebirth manga is getting translated, so honestly, there's a shot.
I feel like, especially with the whole push for globalization, I think it's very possible. Because it's manga. I'm
definitely hoping for at least some translation in some form, even if it's fan sub, bro.
if this gets officially subtitled, I guarantee you it's the entryway for Godzilla manga to come to the States.
Bro, that'd be fire.
Outside of that, they announced the development of console games and mobile games, which they've been saying console games for years now. Let's be fair. They've said the interest of console games for years.
Come on, guys, please. This time, real one.
I think mobile games is expected. They also announced a streaming app, Toho Plus or whatever.
Yeah.
Which
all those companies are doing that.
Yeah. I don't see that becoming something international, especially since so many companies have the rights to Toho properties. But, that's something they're doing. I'm trying to think what else.
I'm praying for the console game to happen.
We'll see. I think it's possible.
I love that they use Elden Ring, a photoshopped image from Elden Ring. That's amazing.
That was funny. I'm trying to think. So, I'm ignoring the obvious one with all this announcement. I'm trying to think what else there was in that reveal. And it's not really a reveal. It's just
amusement rides. So more Godzilla the Ride stuff.
More Godzilla stores. They have plans to open 2 more in Japan. And then, like you said, amusement park rides.
And then just general merchandise stuff.
Right. They do say home media. So, I think home video is a part of that. -1 obviously was the beginning of that. Maybe we'll see that. I think we'll see that with whatever the next Toho film is. I'd be curious to see if Toho would handle any of that for their older stuff. I don't know. Maybe. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Now, the obvious one is we did get a small minor update to Takashi Yamazaki's upcoming Godzilla movie, which is not really that big of a surprise. I mean, Yamazaki's returning to write, direct, and supervise the VFX for a Godzilla movie by Toho. I feel like it was very obvious what that meant.
I mean, everyone's saying that it was confirmed, it's a direct sequel or whatever, but as far as I understand, the original source, even the Japanese original version of the document, the non-English version of the document, as far as I'm aware, they don't actually use the word sequel. It's gonna be a sequel, obviously. But, I don't think anything has actually said that outside of, the Bloomberg article, just, extrapolating that and everyone's running with it.
Well, the Japanese Bloomberg article has the character for sequel, not direct sequel. And so to a certain extent, I can understand where somebody might be hesitant because like we've been told like -1's the sequel to Shin Godzilla, but in a different context, right? It's the follow-up. It's the next Godzilla movie. It's not a sequel to Shin Godzilla, but it's the next movie.
I mean, either way, I'm sure it will be. I'm sure it'll be set in the same continuity.
Right.
I'm sure. I feel like that's damn near a guarantee, in all honesty.
I agree. I think the biggest question is what characters will come back and what time period will it be in, and where do we go from here?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So, with that being said, an hour and a half in.
Jesus.
Are you ready to go into the mailbag?
Yes.
All right. So, we have various mailbag statements. Most of these come from our YouTube channel and our YouTube comments, which, by the way, our YouTube channel is now up to date with our episodes. So, you are getting these around the same time as the episodes go live on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all your podcasting platforms.
Woohoo!
So that's exciting. That's a little update for season 6 that I'm glad we can get to, is, releasing these and not having it as a back catalog.
That's why we waited so long to record a new episode, bro.
It is.
Yeah. That's
so
why.
The first mailbag question is from our Terror of Mechagodzilla episode, where user KSHS11319 says, "Could you say more on the character of Suda?" Rex?
It's been a bit since I've watched Terror of Mechagodzilla.
It's been a couple months.
You know I actually could have seen it in theaters just the other month.
Oh, and you didn't?
I didn't. I'll talk about it more later, but I did see one Godzilla movie in theaters recently.
So Suda is not the commander of the Black Hole Planet 3 aliens, but the one with the glasses. So with the cool mustache and the...
Oh, that guy!
Yes. So I'm trying to... I'll let you think about it. I'll kind of spout out a couple things, and then we'll go back to you.
I don't have a lot to say on that character.
I don't either.
It's cool. I guess.
I do think it's... I love the fact that like he's always...
The performance.
I do love the fact that he's always been in the shadows for the Mifune family, right? Like he was there when Katsura's death happened, and then he's the one who operated on her, like one of the people who operated on her. I think that's really cool, and the fact that like he put like the illusion is the idea of that like he helped put the Mechagodzilla operation stuff in Katsura. And the fact that like he reveals himself as an alien, like as Mifune has known him for a while. So I do think it's really cool that like he has that, like he's established with the Mifune family aspect. But honestly, that's really it. I don't think he's just kind of a side character that's there to move the Mifunes along, right? Like he's just kind of a plot device for them to continue on.
Yeah.
So that's really all I have to say.
He's rocking that beard, though. I won't lie.
I do love. He's very 70s, and I do love that. So, do you have anything you want to add to the?
Not really. No.
Okay.
I'd just be restating what we've both just said there.
DS Archer commented on our Terror of Mechagodzilla episode. This is a long one. Congratulations on another insightful video. It's good you gentlemen have access to Age of the Gods, a history of the Japanese fantasy film by Guy Mariner Tucker, published in 1996. This went out of print years ago and is nearly impossible to find. By the way, I personally knew Guy, died in 2006, and his publisher/friend, John Rocco Roberto, 1962 to 2007. Guy and John were two talented men who died way too young. The Godzilla fandom owes something to them. Anyways, cheers. So thank you so much for the kind words on our episode. I appreciate it. I'm sure Rex does too. I would love to get my hands on an actual physical copy of Age of the Gods. I know, like, they go for hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, I don't have a physical copy. So I don't actually own the book. The best I've got is like I've seen like excerpts from it, but I don't own the full book. And then I see it referenced on some other sources, and that's mainly it usually.
Yeah, that book's always been like on my like top of my list.
It's a grail for a lot of people, honestly.
Absolutely. And then I have one more mailbag. This one's from Twitter or X. I guess it's X now.
Twitter.
This is actually, we got a shout out. We got a shout out from Perfect Kaiju Shots at Kaiju Shots on Twitter. X user Alex at Red Bamboo posted a question asking if anybody had Kaiju podcast recommendations. They had listened to every episode of Kaiju Transmissions a couple times over, I believe, and they were looking for a new one. And so Perfect Kaiju Shots in the comments said, at Kaiju_Converse is a good one. I just listened to their Gauss episode the other day, and my entire perception of the 67 Kaiju boom is forever changed.
That makes me so happy. If you like the Gauss episode, this is kind of like going to be a part 2 to that almost in some regards.
I think this will be the prelude to that. But yes, thank you. I know we've talked on Twitter a couple times. Perfect Kaiju Shots, and I have. He sent me a link to... there's a French book that's getting translated to English and coming out soon. He sent me that link, so that's going to be a book I pick up. He's been... he or she, I don't know. We'll go with they. They've been very nice when they've messaged us. They've been very supportive. They've been very nice. So thank you very much for that shout out. Alex actually responded to Perfect Kaiju Shots saying a nearly 3-hour episode on Kibakichi. Yes, please. I think in that one we cover a lot of yokai stuff too. I think we do a lot of yokai work. Look, sometimes these recordings kind of blur together after a while.
I remember the gist of it, kind of. I remember the movie.
I know we covered Tomu Haraguchi's filmography, and we cover the yokai, and then we talk about
right.
So a little bit of everything. But with that being said, thank you all to everybody who's commented or added us on social medias or on YouTube. If you want to, feel free to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Feel free to comment on our YouTube channel, whether it's on a post or an episode. Feel free to comment on Spotify. Feel free to add us on X, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, posts, and I hope to God that's all the social medias we have. Facebook, X, Instagram,
all the ones that matter.
Discord, Blue Sky, and posts. Yes. Or you can email us at kaijuconversation@gmail.com, or you can go through our website, www.kaijuconversation.com, and go to the Contact Us page, and you can leave us a message that way as well. If you want to ask for more, if you want to ask us on any more we have to say on characters or movies or like just general questions, whatever the case may be. Maybe not who would win in a fight, because I'm just going to say the writer.
I'm just going to say
spoiler
Godzilla.
alert. It'll be like, who will win in a fight, Anguirus or Kumanga? Godzilla. But yeah, feel free to leave us a comment or message or anything on any of those platforms. If you're on our Discord, just at Rexerai, and just let us know, and we'll read your reviews or your statements or your thoughts or your questions, and we'll answer them, and we'll give our honest thoughts. So thank you all to everybody who has, and we look forward to hearing from more of you guys. Now, transitioning into more, Rex, what more entertainment, kaiju, and tokusatsu have you watched?
Oh my god, I've watched so much. It's been so long that I've gone through almost the entirety of like Twin Peaks. I've become a Twin Peaks fan now. R.I.P. David Lynch.
That's a David Lynch. Yeah.
R.I.P. David Lynch.
You know,
love
fun
him.
Fun fact, I don't know. I think we've talked about David Lynch a couple times. So I own Eraserhead.
Please
I haven't watched
watch it, bro.
Hey, I'm looking at my copy right now.
Please, bro.
Like
please.
I will eventually. Fun fact, when we recorded on Fridays, I would always, like, when we get into these calls, I'd always mimic his and can you believe it?
It's a Friday
once again.
It is a Friday for me. I think it's a Friday.
It's a Wednesday.
Wait, hang on. Oh, wait, I'm stupid. Never mind. I'm getting confused. Wait, sorry, I forgot. Today's my last day of work for the week, so that's why.
It's your Friday at work.
Sorry.
That's what's
I'm
important.
used to finishing up a week on Friday. Just the love of the game here.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace,
We love David Lynch.
We love David Lynch, even though I've never watched it.
You are a failure.
I've seen Dune. That's it.
His worst movie.
I know.
It's fine.
Anyway, so you've watched Twin Peaks?
Yep. Yeah, I've finished the original series and I've seen like the movie. And I'm just watching the Twin Peaks: The Return right now. Yeah.
Fun.
I saw the new Mobile Suit Gundam movie, G-Quack's Beginning. The second episode of the show actually just came out.
Is that the one that Anna worked on?
Yes, and there's a whole section that is the section that Anna worked on and wrote specifically is basically Shin Gundam. It basically feels like that. And you know what? You know what's to tell? The how dry it is compared to the actual main story. It's so dry. It's not bad, mind you. It's not bad, but it's really dry and it's very fan servicey. Because it's like an alternate retelling of the story of the original Gundam, kind of, and like the first like 10 minutes is a recreation of the very first episode, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. I ended up sitting next to a guy in the cinema who was dressed up as one of the characters in the movie, one of the main characters of Gundam in general, so that's funky. He was a cool guy though. Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I'm really liking this new series so far. What else? I saw the Gareth Edwards movie, Monsters. I watched that finally. I can't believe it. Gareth Edwards can make good movies.
It's when he doesn't have bad scripts.
I know. It's like, wow, he can make a movie. It's crazy.
Okay, but Rogue One's pretty
I haven't
good.
seen it in years. I'm sure it is. I did like it when it came out. I just haven't seen it in years. So I'm going...
Have you seen The Creator yet?
No, I keep meaning to.
I've heard that one's good.
I've heard mixed things. I have a friend who really doesn't like it. But yeah, going more in terms of like kaiju and related things, I got to see Son of Godzilla in theaters very recently. Or, well, like a month or so ago.
How was that?
It was a joy. It was a genuine joy. It honestly played great with the crowd as well. I'm not huge on crowds when like every time Godzilla shows up, it's like laugh. So it was kind of a little annoying at the beginning, but honestly, the crowd turned out to be mostly fine. And I think most people generally did find the charm of the movie generally. outside of like one guy who was like, man, that was the lamest Godzilla movie I've ever seen. But yeah.
That's kind of a wild take.
I know, right? He's just wrong. But yeah. Yeah, I saw that. And a few weeks later, at that cinema, they had a Japanese horror weekend.
Oh.
So, yeah. So that cinema that played like Audition and whatnot previous year, yeah, they were playing some more movies this year. I didn't go the first night, sadly. I kind of regret not going. They played Dark Water and Ju-On. So
Ooh.
I should have seen that.
That would have been a good double feature.
I did
Both are
want
really
to go,
good.
but I wasn't able to. However, the second night, they played Onibaba, which actually all of these movies I'd never seen before. So Onibaba was the first movie of night 2. That was pretty good. I quite enjoyed it. I wasn't initially feeling it, but at a certain point, like maybe like halfway through, the music kicks in. That movie has an incredible score, and the music just got me locked into the second half of the movie. That's great. And then I decided to stay back for the second movie of the night, In the Realm of Senses, by Nagisa Oshima, director of Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, if you know what that is. Oh my god, what a movie. Oh my god. It was amazing. It wasn't really a horror movie, but oh my god, it was great. I loved it. And I don't know what that says about me, but I loved it.
I think that says that you like Japanese cinema.
Yeah. Let's go with that. And yeah, that was an experience. It was so much of an experience that we ended up, like a bunch of the people in the cinema, we just ended up having, at the bus stop, we just gathered around in the circle and we're like, okay, guys, we don't know each other, but we have to talk about this. We have to talk about this movie. And yeah, and I actually made friends with one of the guys there, which was pretty cool. And I saw him the next night when they played Gozu for the Takashi Miike double feature.
What was the other one?
So Gozu was the first movie, which was, it kind of reminded me of One Missed Call in a strange way.
That makes sense. Same era.
Not necessarily why you'd think. You know how One Missed Call was kind of like a bit of a satire of J-horror?
Parody?
Yeah. Gozu
Yeah.
feels like that, but for Yakuza movies.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
And then it kind of becomes a horror movie at the very end. Very, very end. Where something insane happens. And it's really funny. And I don't know if... Maybe funny is not the right word, but we were laughing. We were having a good time. And then the last movie was Visitor Q.
Oh.
You know what Visitor Q is about, do you?
I do.
I just want to point out that Visitor Q was a packed cinema. Ju-On did not get a packed cinema, from what I'm told.
I think that says something about society.
I think that says a lot about the people that go to that cinema, including me. Yeah. But yeah, oh my god, Visitor Q was an experience, bro. Seeing that in cinemas was an experience. There was a guy at the front on the beanbags just vibing out that entire movie. Oh my god. There was several walkouts at a certain point in Visitor Q. Actually, one of the people who walked out was someone who I talked to like in the break between Gozu and Visitor Q, and their name was Dora.
Mm-hmm.
And they got their name from King Ghidorah. Yeah, because they were a Kaiju fan. They were actually an Ultraman fan too. But yeah, no. And yeah, Visitor Q was such an experience that by the end, it's like we get out of the cinema and we're talking to the cinema employees, and you know, we basically go in another circle where we're just like, okay, we have to talk about the movie, and some of them are smoking, and they're like offering cigarettes around. I'm like, yeah, honestly, after that movie, I'm not a smoker, but I need a cigarette, bro. Like, it was an experience. It got a round of applause at the end, by the way. I almost forgot to mention that. That does not happen in Australia, except for the Minecraft. That did happen there. But that does not happen in Australia. That's insane. Incredible experience. Genuinely one of my favorite movie-going experiences of all time, though. Like, easy top like 3. Which, again, I don't know what that says about me.
It says a lot.
I don't know I don't think it's a good thing, but it was a good experience. I had a lot of fun. I was very sad when it was over, I'm not gonna lie. Oh, and this is the second Mike weekend in a row where I've almost gotten stuck in the middle of nowhere because my second bus wasn't running at like 12 a.m. God damn it. Lucky me. I know, right? Good. I had to get picked up by someone, but it was fine. And yeah. That's... Oh! I also saw the Kaiju number 8 movie.
Okay. How is that?
It was fine.
I heard that the show is actually just, like, people are ranting and raving about it, but it's just mediocre.
It is like it feels like a Attack on Titan with Shin Godzilla elements. With maybe a sprinkle of Evangelion. Like a small sprinkle of Evangelion. That's what it feels like to me.
I was told that it's basically a bunch of different popular animes that do it way better. You get it all in a mediocre fashion. It's
kind of just a shonen anime where, I don't know. To be fair, I think the fact that it was a like a recap movie that shortened a lot of things, cut a few things, that probably didn't help it for me. But I feel like with like a compilation movie, I feel like I want to go into it and leave the theater wanting to like, man, I want to see more.
Right.
I really didn't get that. I didn't really get that from it. I kind of just, when the recap part of the movie ended, it was like, okay, it was fine. Like, it wasn't bad. It was just fine. I think the best part was definitely like the original episode, because I almost was kind of confused. I'm like, oh, did I not realize which part was the new? Did they play all the new footage and I didn't notice, or what? But no, it's like they play the recap movie, then there's credits, and then there's a separate episode after the credits. It's like a side episode. Spin-off episode, whatever. And that was fun. I honestly think that was the part I enjoyed, and that one had no kaiju in it. It was just fine. But like, even as a recap for season 1, I'm pretty sure it doesn't even cover like the last 2 episodes. So like, if you were going into it like, oh, I can watch this and then be caught up for when season 2 comes out, it's like you're not really entirely caught up, even, from what I understand, because it ends before like the last 2 episodes, I think, of season 1. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it was just okay. I'll watch the show soon-ish, but it didn't make me more excited to watch it, which was disappointing, I think. The only other thing is a tokusatsu that you actually watched, crazily enough.
Yes. I think we watched it together, actually.
No, did we?
Maybe.
That's crazy. You should go first and tell the audience.
Well, if we're going to transition into what tokusatsu entertainment and kaiju stuff I've watched, in terms of tokusatsu, I've only watched one new movie in the last 4 months. Which is Kamen Rider the First.
Yay!
So I've watched now 2 Kamen Rider movies. Shin Kamen Rider and Kamen Rider the First. Both have the same idea. Both do it very differently.
Yeah, very differently. What is your take on Kamen Rider the First?
It's definitely a 2000s movie. And it baffles me to think that this was like a big budget Kamen Rider project at the time, because it does not look like it. It definitely looks lower budget.
Does it?
It looks like a TV movie. I think it does.
It doesn't. It looks like a real movie.
I don't agree. The same director did a movie called Gamera the Brave.
Okay, sure.
Like a year
yeah,
earlier.
Sure.
And that looks vastly superior.
Okay, but
better.
The way we watched it, it looked okay.
Okay.
It looked. It's not meant to look that bad. Trust me.
Okay, maybe I need to rewatch it with
A far better transfer.
Better transfer, not being streamed at a lower resolution plus compressed over the internet. On a website.
But yeah, no, I'd say like compared to like Kamen Rider movies, I feel like all the actual like mainline Kamen Rider movies, those feel like TV movies. Like for better or worse, those really feel like TV movies. This, by comparison, absolutely feels like a theatrical film compared to some of those, especially the ones like around that time, like Fai's movie, Agito movie, etc., etc. Those are the ones I've seen from that era. Honestly, I love that movie so much. I think it's a blast.
I didn't hate it. I think
it's my favorite.
I probably need to rewatch it.
Outside of Shin Kamen Rider, it's probably my favorite, like modern-ish Kamen Rider movie. Yeah.
Really?
I mean, the thing is, I don't really like the movies based on that are like sequels to the TV shows very much. I don't really like many of them. The ones I've seen, I think they're just okay at best. Yeah. And hey, this is your introduction to Toshiki Inoue. Oh my god. That's crazy.
Outside of that, in terms of movies I watched, have I talked about the fact I went and saw Nosferatu in theaters when it was out in theaters? Okay. Then the only other thing that I've watched myself is me and my girlfriend watched The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension. That's not Tokusatsu.
That's not the only movie you saw.
Before we get into that, let me give you a rundown of the movies I did watch, but it was because she wanted to watch them. We have the first 2 Hunger Game movies. The Hunger Games and the Hunger Games Catching Fire. I don't think I didn't watch the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1 or Part 2. I do have them though.
Are you guys gonna watch Twilight?
I watched those.
Yeah,
she wanted to watch Adam Sandler's 51st Dates.
I've never seen Twilight, but you should do it.
A Dolphin Tale. Yeah. She doesn't like Uncut Gems. She's watched it.
It's the guy from Uncut Gems.
High School Musical, the movie.
Oh,
Grease. Lifeless, which is like some sort of Netflix romance movie.
You guys should watch Drawing Closer. You guys should watch that movie.
We went to the theaters twice. One was to see Red One, which was Dwayne Johnson.
Oh my god, that movie.
Yeah, it was a movie.
Hey, the cinematographer that's working on Godzilla Kong 3.
Great.
Yeah.
And then most recently, she asked if we could go see a Minecraft movie, and we did. Oh my god.
And you loved it.
I quite literally, I walked out and I said, I've never been more disinterested and dissatisfied and wanted to leave a theater in my life. For anybody listening, this is a Kaiju podcast, and we're 2 hours into this Kaiju podcast. But let me tell you, do not go watch the Minecraft movie. It is not good. But we did watch some Kaiju and a Tokusatsu movie. So she wanted me to pick some movies. That's kind of what we've been doing, is like she'll pick a movie, I'll pick a movie, she'll pick a movie, I'll pick a movie. And that's kind of what we've been doing. I'm hoping to start watching more just Tokusatsu very soon. In terms of tokusatsu, we watched Tetsuo the Iron Man recently, just because like if you're gonna date me, you gotta watch that, right? Like if you want to see insanity, watch that.
So the next step is Visitor Q, right?
Yeah.
That's a fun date night movie.
She did not like it.
Oh.
She said she didn't understand it, and it was weird. And I was like, okay, that tracks. And that was about it. After today, just so everybody listening knows, after today, we will not have 2.5 hour long preambles, because we had to cover Kaiju Tokusatsu, movies we've watched, life experiences, news, intros, and now we're here. And now I have forgotten the whole point of why we were here. Why are we here? What are we talking about?
We're here to discuss a kaiju movie.
Okay. So it's season 6. It's episode 116, 2025. What do we do? Like, how do we start off a year?
Well, we're not doing Godzilla because that guy's lame.
We've covered
Rent's
too much
not
Godzilla.
due yet. Rent's not due yet. It's fine.
I don't really want to cover.
Maybe it will be soon. Maybe it will be soon with the economy at the moment. Anyways.
I don't really want to watch a King Kong movie. I'm not like the next one's a long one.
Lame monkey. Boo.
So
don't appear in season 2 of Monarch.
We gotta start off with something big, right? Like we gotta do something like to get like we started with Godzilla last year, right? We did Destroy All Monsters. So we gotta do something like on the same level, something similar.
I think our best episode last year, for me at least, was the Gamera vs. Gauss episode.
I agree wholeheartedly.
By sheer coincidence, I neglected to mention that I had just rewatched Gamera vs. Virus.
Gamera Tai, you mean Gamera Tai Uchu Kaiju Bairasu?
Yes.
Oh, and you know what?
Or Destroy All Planets.
Yeah. It was released in Japan in 1968, the same year as Destroy All Monsters.
No way.
I think that is a great idea. Because guess what? I also watched Gamera Tai Uchu Kaiju Bairasu. Let's do it.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
That's right, dear listeners. We're back on the Gamera train.
Gamera.
This is the first time where we can sing this song because it's in the goddamn movie.
It is. Okay, so where do we start here? Do we pick up where we were leaving off with Gamera versus Gauss?
Well,
the state of Kaiju and Daiei and all of that.
Well, before we get on to Viras, I think I kind of want to make a little bit of an addendum to the Gauss episode and kind of just... So I've done a fair bit of further research on Daiei, Masaichi Nagata, Gauss, and the Japan Film Promotion Export Association and whatnot. I actually just the other week finally got some scans of Kinema Junpo magazine articles from 1967. I finally got scans sent to me. I had to get them physically because the Japan archive doesn't do digital, which is stupid, and it's going to cost me. I have an invoice of $30. Whatever. So I've been doing a fair bit of research. My research isn't complete, but I've got a fair lot. I feel like I've learned a lot of new things that really just been really fascinating. I remember we kind of talked about and joked about how, man, Gamera vs. Gauss, if we were to look at like politics and kaiju movie and like we were to say, Godzilla's like liberal, like kind of slightly left-wing-ish sort of deal, then Gamera's got to be very conservative, very right-wing. Yeah. Daiei was absolutely very right-wing. I can basically say that with absolute certainty. So while I can't necessarily say that Gamera vs. Gauss is, government propaganda in the sense of the government absolutely was like, yes, this movie needs to be saying this about the airport. But for a little bit of history on Nagata. So Nagata, politically, he in his youth, he used to be a bit of a socialist. But he is. So first off, he was religiously a Nichiren, believed in Nichiren Buddhism, which is not necessarily conservative. I guess the way I'd put it, as far as my limited understanding of it, is it's kind of like how a lot of Christians in like the West swing conservative. It's not necessarily a conservative on its own right, but a lot of people who have those beliefs swing conservatively, especially at this point in time. And like some of the other people in the Nichiren Buddhist beliefs were people like Yoshio Kodama, someone who was very, very much associated with Masaichi Nagata and was a far-right link between the Japanese government and the Yakuza, and also it kind of worked for the CIA a bit. There is a surprising bit of CIA connections for Masaichi Nagata, which is fun. So originally when I found out, I'm like, oh, so that explains all like the talk of like Nagata's like Yakuza and political connections, right? No, they go way deeper. Nagata himself used to actually be a Yakuza member, specifically for the Senbon Gumi gang with the Sasai family.
Where was that located? Do you know?
I don't know. I didn't look at that, I'm afraid. He was actually disowned by his mother because of this. But yeah. And he tried entering politics at one point with the backing of Kishi Nobusuke, who, if you don't know who that is, that's Shinzo Abe's grandfather, former Japanese prime minister. Both were former Japanese prime ministers. That didn't go his way. Just generally had connections to like most of like the generally like corrupt LDP members. And I kind of learned through this that the LDP's existence exists through just corruption, because it was funded by its existence was funded by the CIA. And also money that came through very questionable means, thanks to Yoshio Kodama and senior LDP member Kono Ichiro, who was also a deputy prime minister, yada, yada, yada. Now,
can you, just for anybody listening who doesn't know what the LDP is, what is that?
Liberal Democratic Party. So that's the main, basically the ruling political party in Japan. Ever since it was the Liberal Party and the Democratic Party, they combined because the CIA basically wanted to root out communism in Japan. And so they funded that. And so that has been the leading political party in Japan since its formation post-war. Now, I think it's only lost like one election, I think. I'd have to double check that.
Now, for like people in America, the LDP is most equivalent to the Republican Party, correct?
Yeah. It is the conservative party in Japan. I know liberal in America tends to mean like
left,
kind of left wingish.
Yeah.
But like for me, liberal is very conservative in my country. So yeah. So Nagata had not only did Nagata have political connections, he just had connections to almost seemingly like most of the damn LDP in some small form at the very least.
Right. I mean, it's no secret that Nagata at one point owned a baseball team. He was the head of Daiei. He had previous work. He worked with various companies. I think he worked with Nikatsu.
Right. I mean, even one of the films we covered previously, Warning from Space, one of the writer for that was a former LDP member.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no. And so the big thing with what we've previously talked about the Japan Film Export Promo Association, that was... Nagata wasn't the only one to lobby it, but from what I understand, he was basically the big guy, the big lobbyer for it, the biggest pushing force of it, which makes sense given his history on just how Daiei formed and all that. He was for more stuff that that's like, yeah, he was conservative. He was explicitly very anti-communist, and that leads to so with the whole Japan Film Export Association, Nagata, the big thing with Nagata and his business strategy with films was basically after, I want to say it was Rashomon, he went to America, he went to New York, and following that trip pretty much for distributing Rashomon, and like trying to make deals with Disney and whatnot, basically from that point forth, international distribution is the big thing for Nagata and Daiei. That is the big thing for almost seemingly like the rest for like the next like 10 or so 10, 20 years, pretty much. So like so much to the point where going back to the CIA, strangely enough, like the CIA ended up funding, well, not the CIA, but a non-government organization that just happened to be made up of a lot of people who happened to be in certain U.S. government, had previously been in certain U.S. government roles and happened to also receive funding from the CIA. A very non-U.S. government group ended up approaching Nagata to essentially form the Federation of Motion Picture Producers in Southeast Asia, for just having this sort of like international sort of like film festival for Asian films to promote Asian films. And for the CIA, for America's purpose, this was to basically root out communism in Asian countries. They wanted to use Japan as like a big like example to really set the standard and push that idea of anti-communism. And so they got recommended Nagata because he was a stout anti-communist and none of his films promoted sort of like communist values, essentially. And yeah, that stuff eventually ended up failing, but essentially, Nagata, for the next 10 years or so, Nagata's big thing was just international distribution. So it makes complete sense why he would really be lobbying for this Japan Film Export Promo Association. Blah. Full name's a mouthful.
It is. Now, do you have anything else to add there? Because I have.
There might be more. My notes are a little bit of a mess, if I'm being honest. I'm kind of jumping all over the place, as I'm sure you can tell.
Now, I'm happy you brought up the Southeast Asian Film Festival because that was something I looked into. Because, perfect segue here. So, the Japan Film Export Association ended in 1970 officially, but Daiei stopped utilizing it for its kaiju films with Gamera versus Gyaos. Now, why is that? That is something that's very interesting because they used it on Daimajin, they used it on Gyaos.
No, they used it on Viras.
They did not.
It is mentioned in the government documents that you and I have both looked at. That Viras was a part of. Yes, and Guiron. They mentioned Viras, Guiron. Because they specifically mentioned the profits that Gauss and Viras made and the losses in quotation marks for Guiron. That's debatable. Whether it
that's
actually
right.
lost money.
I couldn't find my other notes, but you're right. But the Film Export Association wasn't as deeply involved with Viras because of one very important thing.
Oh.
And that's because with Rashomon, Nagata got the urge to want to do international distribution, which at the time was unheard of for Japan. And look at what happened following Rashomon with Godzilla, right? Godzilla and then Godzilla Raids Again. Various kaiju films, right? They got, picked up by various American companies and redistributed. Well, what happens in 1968, or I guess 1967, with Gauss is a company that has been acquiring and working with United Pictures of America sees opportunity. So American International worked with United Pictures of America, UPA, on acquiring the rights. UPA had acquired the rights to Mothra versus Godzilla, but they couldn't afford to distribute it. So AIP picked it up and distributed it as Godzilla versus the Thing. They passed on Walter Reed. UPA picked up Astro Monster, Frankenstein versus Baragon, and War of the Gargantuas. But they still used AIP to distribute them.
Mm-hmm.
UPA was not large enough yet to have their own distribution chain. And then with Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, they started, they continued distributing Son of Godzilla. And AIP noticed, okay, let's look at television. How can we get television? Because television was growing in popularity. You had stuff like Ultraman and Ultra Q. Ultra Q got picked up by United Artists with a planned televised release. That didn't work out. Ultraman eventually got acquired. So the idea of televised Japanese content was growing in popularity. Look at Speed Racer. Look at all this, like the anime that got brought over and dubbed. So AITV went and made deals. They made deals with Nikatsu, which GAPPA was co-financed by the Japan Film Export Association. The X from Outer Space, again, another one that was, utilized with the Japan Film Export Association.
Mm-hmm.
They went to Daiei. They got Warning from Space, Gamera versus Barugon, Gamera versus Gauss, and they made a deal. They made a contract with Daiei stating that as long as they produced a film a year, included a white actor, and had a new monster for every film they made, they would put up part of the funds for new Gamera films for them to be released stateside and be shown on television.
Mm.
And with this deal, Nagata had finally gotten to what he wanted. He had hit his goal that started with Rashomon. Viras is the beginning of that goal, right? And it's interesting because Viras also was the beginning of the turn for the Gamera series as well. We talked about how Gauss was laying the groundwork, but Viras is truly where it became its own franchise. The Gamera March was introduced. The idea of Gamera being the friend to all children was name dropped first in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of Gamera costing not a lot of money started with this film. This film, Gamera versus Viras, had a budget 1/3 that of Gauss, about 200 million yen, which is roughly 78,902,083.
Wait, do you mean? I think you mean 20 million yen. I think the specific number that Yuasa says is 24 million yen in Galbraith's book.
I got 20 million yen.
Yeah, you said 200 million yen earlier. That's
20 million yen. Yes, 20 million yen.
Yeah. Meanwhile, for context, Gauss, the budget we said, and this is a budget that Yuasa says in Galbraith's book, is 60 million yen. It's worth noting that I have a document here. I have this article here that has the price that the loan amount for the film and the total amount that Daiei was put towards the film, and yeah. So I've got I guess I suppose not the real budget, but what the budget should have been for the film.
It's very interesting because they also were having difficulties, in air quotes, having difficulties financing the film.
That's crazy. I mean, I don't have the number for Viras. I have Giausa's number here because unfortunately this article only covers the first year at the moment. At the time of the article's release, four of the films on here hadn't even come out yet. So yeah.
What's interesting is they got help from the Boy Scouts of Japan, which now that you bring up the whole
Nagata was associated with,
and in the film we see that
I think many other LDP members also had roles within that,
right?
As
and
well,
Noriaki Yuasa had
he did a
promo video for him.
Yeah, promo for them, which is on the Arrow set.
For the Jamboree that occurred, I believe it was 2 years prior in 1966. That was something that occurred every 4 years. Now, here's the interesting thing about that. In the film, we see that the Boy Scouts of Japan is depicted as not only Japanese, but American. We have people speaking English and Japanese. That's not just because of AITV. And the idea of Boy Scouts came from America. I don't believe that's something that was in Japan prior to the occupation.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I know it wasn't. I think it was in the 40s it was founded, if I remember right from my research.
Mm-hmm.
So the Boy Scouts, the whole idea of Boy Scouts in America is serving your country, right? Pledging your allegiance to America, which is a very Republican,
very propagandist idea.
And so the idea of Boy Scouts in Japan, what's that doing? That's pledging your allegiance to your country, right? That's helping the nature, the natural side of Japan, but that's also pledging your undying allegiance to your own country, which is something that a government would want.
I went into watching Viras really wanting to look out for like a conservative angle with it, and I didn't find it. But now that you said that, I've realized it was staring at me in the face the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel really stupid now. But that's awesome. I'm happy we found it finally.
That's why when you mentioned that, I was like, oh, really? Because that is 110% something that, like, it's there. It is 110% there. So with that being said, suddenly a lot of this makes more sense as to why it is the way it is. Not only is AITV putting in money, which that was Nagata's whole goal for Daiei. And I think it's very important to note that it solidified it became something towards the end of Daiei's existence, right? Like, this is 1968. They go bankrupt 3 years later. I think it also kind of tells you, like, the problems of this idea at the time. It wasn't a viable option, and they probably shouldn't have went for it because it did end up messing with certain things. But
I mean, Nagata himself was also known for being kind of a crazy businessman with his hand in a lot of different pockets.
Right.
As has kind of been established here, but even more so than that, he's involved, he's implicated in several scandals across the years as well. So there's that. Yeah, before we move on, I'd like to just bring attention to the real, in quotation marks, budget for Yaos, as well as actually Space Monster Gilala, X from Outer Space, and Daikaiju Gappa. Because we didn't previously actually have these. We had like pretty close numbers for Gappa. We had a pretty close estimate of, I think it was like 150 million is what we, 150 million yen is what we said previously was how much they got total. So the total budget with the loan and what Nikatsu was putting to it was supposed to be 165,000 yen. 132 of which was coming from the loan, essentially. So Nikatsu should have been putting about 30 million into the movie, or 30,000 into the movie. Likely they didn't. Likely they only put half of that in, but I digress. Space Monster Gilala was a little bit less at 152,000 total, with 120,000 coming from the bank loans. We have the last Daimajin film as well at a pretty whopping 190,000, 152 of which came from the loan. And Gamera vs. Gyaos, the highest of all four of these. How much do you think it is?
Isn't it 70 mil?
No. Yeah, and you mean 70,000? No. Or yeah, sorry, I've been saying 1,000. I meant million yen. Yep, sorry, my bad. I forget there's mon. No, it was 192 million.
Oh, wow.
Daiei put towards it about 40 million. About 39 million. 153 million came from the loan.
Huh.
So yeah. They had a lot more to play with than they ever put to screen.
Which we did talk about this last time as well. The idea that the money that was put towards films like Yaos and whatnot were probably not actually put towards the film itself, because
the fun thing was as well is that they had money left over for the actual loans. Like the budget for the loan, so I think it was like 2 billion yen per year was what they were doing essentially. Mm-hmm. They had money left over. They had a lot left over, actually. They had like 600 million left over, if I'm remembering right. I think it says in here, from what I translated earlier. And that was actually a big reason why, literally, even within the first year, people are like, this isn't working.
Right. No, absolutely.
And even executives within the Film Export Promo Association weren't too happy with it.
Right. Absolutely. And like to that, going back to Viras, the fact that they had Daiei producing, so they were putting in money. The Boy Scouts of Japan they got a special thanks in it. So like somewhere there was some sort of money or something, exchanged. Coca-Cola of Japan actually invested in the film. They were constantly trying to find buyers. They like held contests and like got some funds that way. And then they got the Japan Film Export Association funds. So this film that already got a budget cut from the previous film, the fact that like it still had all of that funding and how all these other various methods of like getting funds, it really shows. And like, again, with the whole Boy Scouts of Japan thing, like they get a shout out, they get shown off like very clearly in the entire film. In a way, it's almost like a promotional thing for them, right? Like they're shown as like advanced, right? They have the little wristwatches, even though that is not something that they all have. It's a Boy Scout made that, right? It's very much almost like a 60-minute commercial for the Boy Scouts of Japan.
Yeah, it raises a question. How much money did they embezzle with Viras?
A lot. There's no way they didn't.
I wish I had the figures for Viras. I really wish I did. I want to know.
Well, what's also interesting, so going back to, the whole AI TV thing, and whatnot, and I'll explain why this all comes together. So the Japan Film Export Promotion Association was established following the success of Ultra Q. The idea of, because that got picked up by United Artists, like I said. So that was kind of what spurred the idea of special effects and whatnot, and bringing that over. And we talked about all that in Gauss. But they, following this, they did invest into these other films, right? In 1968, for Shochoku, they worked on Genocide and Black Lizard. For Nakatsu, they did the Profound Desire of the Gods. Daiei had multiple films: The Bride from Hades, One Day at Summer's End, The Snow Woman, Gamera versus Viras. All of these were financed partially by the Japan Film Export Association at the time. And we will cover Bride from Hades and Snow Woman, but those are traditional Japanese Edo period stories.
Right.
That's another thing, right? Like those are traditional Japanese stories. They're Japanese myths. So I think we're seeing a lot of very interesting not metaphors, but like relations. Look at Spook Warfare, which came out in 1968 as well. Just as a side note, Gamera versus Viras was released alongside Yokai Monsters 100 Monsters. They were released on a double bill March 20th of 1968 for spring break. But Yokai Monster Spook Warfare is about the idea of a foreign power trying to take Japan. The idea of like these, bad powers from specifically in that film, it's the Middle East.
God, it's so fun that we can find a conservative angle to like every Daiei film we watch now. Just a side note. I think it's so fun.
There's, this is something that I think is very interesting. The idea that these films...
I think this stuff is fascinating. I think Daiei and Nagata are so fascinating to look into. And I feel like you and I are only really scraping the surface here.
I feel like we're slowly getting deeper as we go.
We're getting we're a little below surface level. We're a little in the water, but we're not all the way there.
But
we're not quite on the deep end.
I do think it's interesting that, we have the more liberal, and that's not to say that like Gamera was never like pushing, the idea of like a communicator device on your watch. That's something that's like looking forward into the future, being a little more progressive with stuff. But Gamera's very much a product of its company, and it shines through. And I'm curious, following Viras, we get to Guiron, which is more about outer space, but then we have Zegra, which is about pollution and whatnot, and then Jiger, and Zegra's about Ocean World. And is Jiger's the one about Expo 70, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm curious, as we get into those, like we can see what, like who ran SeaWorld, who was the board of directors for Expo 70. You see what I'm looking at now? I'm curious.
I'm gonna write those in my notes for later. Hang on a minute. That's interesting. I want to have a look at that later, honestly.
Because you can't tell me that these business contacts that Nagata's using, and granted, it's actually Hidemasa
Nagata had
Nagata.
contacts with like several Japanese prime ministers.
Right. Granted, like you can. This is the big thing, right? As much as we're pushing on Hidemasa or Masashi Nagata, he wasn't the one in charge. Noriaki Yuasa actually never even saw Masashi Nagata.
Right. He never went to like the Gamera sets at all. Never came down.
But Hidemasa Nagata, his son, did, and you can't tell me that his son did not have the same contacts.
Oh, yeah, his son would have. Well, we know for a fact his son had similar values because his son talked about Gyaos and the how he specifically kind of wanted that message about like the Nagoya airport to tell children about how bad it was that these people are opposing the capitalism, Grr.
And I guarantee you that there was some sort of communication between the Nagatas for, the Boy Scouts of Japan being included and whatnot, Yeah. There's all of these important details that I think a lot of people just like, oh, that's cool, that just so happens to be. But as you continue to look, especially in this late 60s, the narrative of what Nagata was wanting, he's pulling all the strings here. He very much, we all know Nagata wanted international distribution. That was something way ahead of his time because of how, Japan's distribution worked and how it eventually crashed and now it's coming back. But that was something he was pushing for, and he kept pushing and pushing and pushing until he found a way to get funds. And following that, he got his way. He got American International, and he made what he wanted, right? That was all part of the plan. And because now he's getting that co-production from American International, he's getting more funds. And we know that he was putting that funds. Wasn't he a gambler?
Wasn't
that partially why Daiei went under? Was gambling and mismanagement? When we get to that time, we'll look into it more.
I don't know about the gambling. I'd have to look into that more. That's not something that's really come up in my current research, really. He's definitely really where most of his money goes, from what I understand, sounds like obviously movie business and political lobbying.
And his baseball team.
Oh, that too. Yes. I mean, again, as I said before, he put his hands in a lot of pockets.
Right.
They're like not just political, like just like government based. Well, I guess these are kind of government based, but like even like there's like a railway scandal that he's implicated in for like bribery with and whatnot. Hell, even in the formation of Daiei, he was arrested like several months after it was originally formed, because they believed that he had bribed officials to get Daiei formed.
Right.
The charges were dropped because he said no, that wasn't true. But
when you look at it, like,
also I'm not an expert on Japanese legal system, but what little I do know about it, it kind of relies on the trust system that Japan has culturally, which is why when you go to court and the conviction rate is like 99%, is because it's like they very rarely take people to court. Unless it's like, it's basically 100%. Because either say you admit to it or you don't.
Right.
So, yeah.
So, all of this is very interesting in this grand narrative here, right? And I think we probably need to move on a little bit now into more of the production here. But due to the budget constraints that was put on the film, they only made a couple of sets. They didn't produce a ton, and most of the filming was shot on location.
Right, and even the writer Nissan Takahashi was specifically told to limit the special effects scenes in the film because of the budget.
Mm-hmm. And so, because of that, filming lasted 25 days. There was Noriaki Yuasa said that all the Showa Gamera films had a special effects filming of about 4 months, but I really doubt that they had a 5-month shooting window for this film, especially at the runtime.
I mean, to me, it sounded like the 25 days was including the special effects.
That's what I took it as.
And also, it's worth noting that I believe I read, or maybe it was mentioned on the Arrow set, one or the other, that filming, they had no days off as well for filming. So it was just 25 days straight.
I feel like, I think Carl Craig said something about that. Because he went and shot a movie and had to miss school for that entire time. Now, one of the most interesting things, and this is where we're going to do some more contextualizing for Viras, and then we'll keep going into production information, and then into the actual film finally. So Noriaki Yuasa kind of had the idea that this was going to be the last Gamera film.
Yeah.
So they kept saying, this is the last one. This is the last one.
And that was basically what kept him going through production.
Mm-hmm. Now, that's interesting because we know that the contract that AITV signed was you need to produce a new movie every year, right? So this wasn't something they didn't just sign that contract and they were only going to make one more. Maybe Yuasa wasn't aware of this.
Oh, yeah, I was just about to suggest maybe Yuasa didn't need to know, so he didn't know.
Right. But I do think the idea, because in John LeMay's books, he hasn't found any scrapped Gamera films from 1968. So the follow up to Gauss was Viras as we know it, right? Before Gauss, there was Gamera versus the Vampire, right? That didn't happen. We got Gauss. Viras, there is nothing, right? The
most there really is some
cut scenes. I think
it was some cut scenes, and his original name was Gesso, which was it's derived from the word of cuttlefish.
Right. Yes. But also, fun fact about the whole name thing: there was a push in advertising for naming Viras.
Wasn't it also staged? That
it was all staged.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you look at the time, so 1968, this came out in March. So at this time, we have the bleed over from the 67 end of the kaiju boom, with Ultra 7, Masked Ninja, Akage, Captain Ultra, Monster Prince, Giant Robo. Son of Godzilla was finishing its theatrical run. And so in 1968, you had Mighty Jack. There was no Ultraman show planned, and nothing did come of it. Tsuburaya actually said that he was done.
Yeah.
He had made an announcement that they were done, so they did Mighty Jack. And then Destroy All Monsters was going into production, but it was the planned last Japanese Godzilla film. Japan's Toho had planned to continue with Filmation and doing co-productions, but the last fully produced Japanese Godzilla film was supposed to be Destroy All Monsters.
Yeah.
So you see, in 1968, this by all means, Ultraman had been announced to be over, Godzilla was going to be over, and they were treating Gamera versus Viras as the last Gamera film. This further cements my whole statement about how 1967 is not a kaiju boom, it is the death of the kaiju boom.
100%. Actually, one of the other documents or articles I got from, which is again from a Kinema Junpo magazine from 1967. It's an article where these three Japanese film critics are having a discussion about kaiju movies, and it basically, yeah, it's like the genre was. This was basically the year that the genre just stagnated and was. It was a boom in some sense, but really it was just the beginning at the end. That's what it was. Adults weren't interested in these movies anymore, and children's interest itself was starting to fade away a bit.
Mm-hmm. Now, you do see, like, the Snow Woman, the yokai films, stuff like that's, growing in popularity. Yokai, like, that was the next boom, as we've established in our yokai coverage. But even then, I do think it's interesting how, I think 1968's also kind of a highly viewed year. I feel like 67 and 68 oftentimes are viewed as like, oh, that was the peak, and then we had like All Monsters Attack, and that's when it died. It's like, no.
67's only the peak just because everyone wanted to embezzle money.
Yeah, no, it was simply
why.
And so here we are in 1968.
Well, I say everyone, really just free companies.
Right. But in 1968, we see the death of the kaiju genre. Everything going forward from this point is just because money is being made. It is using the money that is being made and continuing forward. And we see that, if I remember right, Guiron's got a lot of stock footage. Obviously, All Monsters Attack does. Ultraman didn't come back until 1971.
Yeah. Well, there was Ultra Fight in 70.
But that was a cheap...
Yeah, sure. Still, Ultraman came back.
True. You saw nothing else. I believe that was it. I don't think Toei produced anything in 69.
But I can think of.
I don't think... A 70... you had... Well, you also had Latitude Zero, but that was a co-production, right? That was what... In 69, Toho did that, and that was what Godzilla was going to become, and that did not perform well. You have Space Amoeba in 70, which was kind of like the last, like, whatever, and then we had, a boom of the Henshin heroes in 71 and 72, which kind of pushed Godzilla and Gamera through, and Ultraman through, until the mid-70s. We've covered the Godzilla side of all of this, officially all the way through now, because we have covered all the Showa Godzilla films, and we're going to continue to cover Gamera as we go here. But yeah, no, this absolutely is. It's kind of sad, but it's kind of interesting because if you're fine with it, I'd like to kind of start transitioning here into the film itself.
Yeah, we probably should do that, shouldn't we?
The original Japanese version is 72 minutes long.
Right.
It is barely over an hour. It's an hour and 12 minutes. It's so short that when American International broadcast it in 1970, they had to add
more stock footage.
They added 18 minutes worth of stock footage, with stock footage from the previous Gamera films, including the entire fight sequences, to hit that 90-minute mark. And then what's interesting is Noriaki Yuasa then took the American edit and re-edited it for a shorter version, but longer than the Japanese version, for a Japanese physical release in the 80s, which is pretty funny. But it is wild to kind of see what came of Gamera versus Viras. And I guess with that, we can, unless you have any more notes, we can start talking about the film itself.
Oh, I think it's about time we get into the film, personally.
It starts off pretty basic. We have the Viras alien spaceship giving us the beginning of the 5 minutes of exposition they're going to do.
Yeah, all their talks about like colonizing Earth and whatnot.
It's the pretty stereotypical, like, oh, it's perfect for what we need and all that, kind of stereotypical alien stuff.
Right. I mean, what makes the Viras aliens stand out, particularly in this opening scene, is just the production design of the ship.
Mm-hmm. I really dig the design, the orbs and then inside where it's kind of triangular at certain points. I think it's really cool. It's memorable. Absolutely.
It's funky. I dig it. Sometimes it's a little too empty. I don't think it's quite as good as... It's unique, but I don't think it's necessarily quite using the space quite as well as it could be.
Yeah.
But I still like it. I dig it.
And so while they're coming towards Earth, they get on their radar and they find out about something's like approaching, and they look into it, and of course, like, Noriaki Yuasa wanted to attract the kids' attention really fast. And I've talked about this before, the Martin Scorsese, I believe it is, rule of 3 minutes. I love this rule of 3 minutes because guess what?
I can tell you mention it almost every time.
Gamera appears 2.5 minutes in. It does not take more than 3 minutes for Gamera to show up in this film. And part of that is because Noriaki also wanted a lot of focus on the monsters. But sprinkling Gamera throughout with the limited, like, effect sequences, there's only one fight in the whole film, and it's at the very end.
Right.
Sprinkling Gamera throughout and having Gamera be a consistent... He's not a looming presence because he shows up so much. It helps break up the monotony of watching the kids squirm and try to figure out how to get home and all that. Which is very, very, like, good in terms of just, like, the storytelling methods. It definitely, like, if you compare this to... I think Viras... I'm going to say this now. I think Viras is like a early version of what the Toho Champion Festival Godzilla movies would become.
I guess.
That shorter runtime, having Godzilla show up at the beginning, just like how Gamera shows up, and sprinkling, the titular monster throughout more so than, keep leaving him for audiences. I
feel like the Champion Festival Godzilla movies don't really do that. Certainly not the later ones, like
I think
Megalon to Terror, really. Because Godzilla's not really that much of a presence in any of those three.
True. Godzilla only shows up 3 times in Mechagodzilla 74, and I was going to say Terror's like, I think, the obvious like outlier because Godzilla shows up halfway through the movie.
Right, but even then, he really only shows up for the fights.
Right. He doesn't show up for anything else but to fight.
Yeah, and Megalon, he just shows up a little bit at the beginning and then shows up for the finale. And that's really it.
But like at least Hedorah and Gigan, I think use Godzilla in a similar way. I do love the idea of a space fight. I think that's one of the beautiful things about Gamera is like the fact he can fight in the air. And so like this space fight, I think is really, really cool. Like just conceptually, it's not like amazingly executed, but like
it's still fun.
Yeah, exactly. It's a fun idea.
Yeah. And it's got a fun lead into the title card as well that I enjoy.
I really love the dramatic title card here. I think that's like really funny. But it's also it kind of reminds me of like the earlier Showa Godzilla films as well, where they had those kind of dramatic title cards. I know King Kong versus has that, Mothra versus kind of does, Ghidorah does. I really enjoy stuff like that. And like the later Godzilla films also had that. I think like Mechagodzilla 74.
Yeah. And hey, as stated previously, the Gamera March is finally here.
Yes, this was the first time they used the Gamera March. They did use the old one as an instrumental at one point in the film, I believe I saw. So I guess... let me ask you this. With the introduction of the Gamera March, do you think... this this is prior to Kamen Rider. This is prior to the idea of like every kaiju film or whatever has to have a theme song. That started with All Monsters Attack, which is kind of interesting because that was the year after this. So, do you think that perhaps to a certain extent they kind of pulled from this?
Maybe. I mean, I swear I've heard, I don't remember if it was a good source on this, but I did swear I've heard that Viras' use of stock footage is part of what inspired All Monsters Attack's use of stock footage.
Well, that makes sense to a certain extent, but like even in Astro Monster, they were using.
Yeah, I know Astro
footage.
Monster uses stock footage, but yeah, I remember hearing that Viras inspired the extent of it. Again, I don't remember how reliable that source is. That's just memory. So maybe I also question if it's also just like generally it was just like a trend. I mean, you've got Ultraman who has hit Ultraman, Ultra 7 with their hero themes, and Godzilla was transitioning into a hero character. I feel like it was only kind of natural for Godzilla to get his own march and have all the songs, especially given as the films were gearing more and more towards kids in that era.
Right. But I just think that's kind of an interesting thought experiment for people to like think about. This, to me, this film, much more than like Son of Godzilla or Destroy All Monsters, right? Much more than Gappa or X from Outer Space or like any of that. I feel like this film here is the beginning of the trend change, right? Moving to that lower budget. Whether we want to say that Viras inspired All Monsters Attack or not, like the limited sets, for the most part, I feel like this film's cinematography is a little more cramped at certain points.
Yeah, I would say in this beginning bit of the movie, it's just fine.
I don't think it's amazing cinematography by any means, but
it gets better as the film goes along, but I don't even think it really reaches the heights of Barugon or Gyaos,
right,
in terms of the looks.
Or even some of the shots in Giant Monster, Gamera the Giant Monster, are way better. This film feels very amateur in its cinematography, and I feel like I've said that a lot throughout the Gamera series. But this film especially just kind of, it doesn't necessarily feel like you've got somebody who knows what they're doing.
Right, although that probably just comes down to just the production time on it.
Probably. But we do, getting back into the film, following the opening credits in the Gamera March, we do jump to a beach where a car is driving up on a bunch of Boy Scouts.
Yeah. We're introduced to Kojuro Hongo as he comes out of the car with International Ocean Research Lab.
And, do we ever, I don't think we ever find out why they're going to this research lab.
Not really. They just are.
I do think this film does an interesting job at just not establishing anything.
I mean, here's the thing. This movie, the writing of this movie is Saturday morning cartoon writing. It is fast and loose, but where I will compliment it is that it is pretty consistent in that.
It is very consistent in that. I would 100% agree.
For better or worse, it is very consistent in that Saturday morning cartoon logic. I kind of appreciate it a little.
It's very. I think if fans of Godzilla Kong or Godzilla vs. Kong would appreciate Gamera versus Viras. They would say it's a dumb, fun monster movie. You don't need anything else, and I'd say, yeah. Just enjoy the subtle propaganda and you can move on.
I mean, yeah, isn't that what the MonsterVerse is for too?
Yeah.
2014.
But anyways, back into the film. So we do find out that 2 of the 115. I love how they were able to count all the people that fast. Out of 2 of the 115 Boy Scouts are missing, and then that's where we're introduced to our 2 leads.
Yes, Masao and Jim,
and they are at the International
Ocean Research Lab.
And they are checking out a tiny yellow submarine that doesn't have any beetles in it.
Yeah, and they decide, because they're little troublemakers, they decide to mess around with it and rewire the controls.
Which my next question, and I know, I get it, it's Saturday morning cartoon logic, but why are they at the sub? Why do they, do they know they're going to see the sub? They don't know that because they're like, ooh, when they realize. Yeah, so it's like, why are they there?
They're just troublemakers. That's really it. The script's playing fast and loose here.
I definitely don't think this is Nissan Takahashi's greatest Gamera story. It's not boring, though. I'll give it that. As a peek into my thoughts later on. I see. But Kojiro Hongo asks Masao's sister?
Yeah.
Where they're at, and she's like, well, I can contact him through this little wrist, which it's like a compass that also has like an antenna that you can pull out and whatnot. And I do love, that is a cool idea that they predicted very early on, the wrist watch / compass / communication device. I think that's really cool. And I do love that it's something a kid was able to make. I think that's really sweet. And I think that really...
I can't believe they foreshadowed the Steve Jobs scene in Gamera Rebirth.
Oh. Do you think that was a reference by any chance?
No? No.
Okay.
I was joking. I still don't understand why that scene exists in Rebirth.
Because they could do it.
Yeah. One ending.
So I really think that's cool. But also they find out they're at the lab, and I'm kind of surprised that they don't ask, why were you at the lab? Because it can tell you the exact location, which I guess it also predicted location tracking. And then they get threatened to not have their full dinner portions, so they run back. And they then go back to the lab once they show up at the beach.
Yeah, where the scientist tells all the kids that, hey, we've got the submarine. We're gonna let you guys have all 115 of you guys have a turn on it.
So are they gonna pilot it, or is one of them at a time going to go in with the doctor, and they're just gonna ride around
I mean, well, they talk about how it's so simple that a child could pilot it. Right. So that's the idea. And I mean, the fact is they let Masao and Jim take it on their own.
That's right. So yeah, it's probably so 2 of them idea. Each. Which, okay, so 115. So that means somebody's riding solo, or Kojiro Hongo's going for a ride.
I mean, yeah.
So 116. That's 58. 58, so 58 kids, maybe they're 5-10 minutes in the sub each? We'll do 10 minutes. That's 580 minutes. Divide that by 60.
Well, it's 3.5 hours?
9? It's not 3.5 hours, homeboy. It's 9 hours. Because 9 times 6 is 54? Yeah, 54. So 9 hours and 40 minutes. And this is at noon. So they're supposed to be out in that sub until 10 o'clock at night. Unless they were going to try and shove three kids in or something.
That's fine.
I love this movie's logic is just Hitherto
Well,
unknown.
if we want to talk about logic in this movie, let's talk about the next scene where Kojiro Hongo and the scientists take it for a little test ride, and they find out it's malfunctioning. Like, oh, sorry, kids. Yeah, we're gonna have to do this another day. Really sorry. And then Masao and Jim just convince them to let them ride it anyways.
Also, just saying, if you if you convert the wires on a battery to say that it's going to do the opposite of what it's supposed to do.
Look, cartoon logic.
I have another thing coming. It's not going to do that. It's going to break, if not blow up. Because if you put the jumper cables, if you put the wrong side on, it could actually blow up your battery. It's a bad thing. You don't want to do that.
Remember, kids, do that.
No, we don't do that. But
Try it on your parents' car.
You're absolutely right. The fact that they just let them do it. Granted, his sister does have a point of he constructed this, he's good with machines.
Yeah, but he's also 10.
Well,
and Kojiro Hongo and the scientist almost died.
Well, this is the Gamera universe. Children have way more benefits.
Hey, I know.
I wouldn't be surprised if children could run as prime minister in Japan in the Gamera series. I feel like that's something perfectly plausible. I mean,
based on this movie's logic, yeah, honestly.
I mean, later on we find out that these two kids are literally the whole point of why the Japanese government's not...
Yeah, that's what I was referring to.
Yeah. Which, in all fairness, that's Shin Godzilla logic, too.
Huh?
In Shin Godzilla, there's those two people caught in the crossfire, and they refuse to attack Godzilla because of that.
Okay, but isn't that actually based on actual legislation, though?
Maybe it is. So maybe that's why.
Because here's the thing, we're not getting Shin Godzilla tangent.
Fair enough.
This is long enough, but I'm 90% sure that is a real thing. That is a real law.
Fair enough.
Because Shin Godzilla's military is based on real military practice. Yeah. Anyways.
So they get into this submarine and they know what to do, so they do it and they accomplish what they're wanting. Mm-hmm. They're also I don't entirely understand why they're able to just go out and they don't have time limits. There's nothing to what is keeping a kid running in what is preventing kids from having an ocean gate? Again,
nothing.
Nothing.
Kojiro Hongo and the scientists nearly die.
And they let
the kids go.
Maybe they signed an insurance waiver or something.
Maybe they want to kill them.
I'll show you for being late. Oh my god.
You know what's happening to those dinner portions? You are them.
Anyways, the aliens are back. Same kind of spaceship. This time they're going to attack Gamera. And
who shows up with the kids?
Yeah, Gamera's plot convenience is going to plot convenience.
It's fine.
It's the logic.
It's fun.
Also, I love how we're about 15 minutes into the movie, and then the aliens continue to say more exposition. We have the race between Gamera and Masao and Jim, and in between all this is intercut with the Boy Scouts saying that they don't believe that Gamera's there. And then intercut with the aliens being like, oh, we're going to do more exposition.
Yeah. After their little race, their fun little race, unfortunately, the Viras aliens strike with their...
Super Catch Ray.
That's it. That's its name.
What a name. That's such a stellar name that I had to write it down. Super Catch Ray.
Yeah, trapping the kids in Gamera in a dome.
Which is a cool effect. I actually really like it.
Yeah, it looks cool.
I think it's cool. Also, mild side tangent. I love the psychedelic triangle thing that like the aliens have on their spaceship.
Oh,
I think
yeah,
it's really
again.
fun.
Again, I love all the stuff that's there on the Viras ship. I wish it was a little more, or it was could be a little better, but yeah, love what's there.
So Gamera frees the kids by just lifting up the dome, which is funny.
Yeah.
And then we get the aliens probing Gamera's memory.
Yes, something like that. They're doing their homework on Gamera,
which is
figure out what his weakness is, and somehow miss the fact that he was weak to ice.
Yeah. Lots of exposition here. I do enjoy the fact that like they went and like tinted the Gamera the Giant Monster footage like it's blue. I think that's fun. We get stock footage from Gamera the Giant Monster, Gamera versus Barugon, and Gamera versus Gauss.
We get Kojiro Hongo in his second role in this movie.
Yeah, that's really funny.
Stock footage from Gauss.
I do like how the Japanese version's way better than the English version because it's way more selective.
It is like only like a minute and like 2 minutes long. That scene in the Japanese version, it's really short. I was really pleasantly surprised.
It's more of like a quick highlights reel of the special effects, and then they move on. Right.
It doesn't even really do much with the fights. I don't even remember. I genuinely don't even remember if they showed Barugon.
They do.
If they did, it was like maybe like 30 seconds.
Yeah, it wasn't very long, and so yeah, it's. Actually, I don't think they do show Barugon. I think they
because I remember that they show the dam scene at a couple points, but I don't remember them actually showing Barugon himself.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Like in the AIP TV version, they show that whole fight, but yeah.
And again, plot convenience. Following this, the super catch ray it wears off. And then
to be fair, they state that it's only going to last that long for the stock footage.
Right. And then we get back to our kids coming out and they get scolded for saying that Gamera's there, which, okay, this is something I think that's growing on me, is just this annoyance with the whole concept of like, we live in a world where monsters exist and you're going to tell me a monster's there and you don't believe me. Like, and it's something that the Gamera franchise really suffers from. The idea of like the adults don't believe that Gamera is there, which I get a little annoyed by. Actually, out of curiosity, I just thought about this. Do you think the growth of popularity for yokai helped influence the, oh God, what's the term? Where something's turned into more of a human.
Anthropomorphization?
Yes. Do you think
the word wrong, but yeah.
Anthropomorphizing. Yeah, anthropomorphizing. Do you think that the continued like popularity, the growth of popularity for yokai helped kind of give Gamera that more anthropomorphized character traits?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. That was just kind of a trend in like giant monster movies like Godzilla, like Rodan and whatnot. Maybe the yokai trend influenced it. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know.
But the aliens do show up, and then Gamera pops out after. And then, again, the kids are stupid. They run straight to the spaceship.
Yep, and get caught in the super catch ray.
And then Gamera gets bribed.
Very relatable experience, given Daiei.
Yeah. I do love the idea of Gamera being controlled.
Maybe the Viras aliens are based on Masaichi Nagata.
Maybe. I do think it's interesting. I do love the fact that Gamera gets controlled, because this is actually, I believe, the only time in the franchise Gamera's controlled.
Gamera Rebirth as well.
Oh, yeah. I forget that exists.
Yeah, like the last episode or something.
But I do think that's cool. You know, that's unique to this film. The idea of being, you know, controlling Gamera, making him a villain.
I feel like it happens in Super Monster at some point.
Does it? Oh, I think it does. Yes, because they
use
use
the 65 stock footage in that as well.
Yeah.
They use every bit of stock footage.
They use everything.
Except for
Nothing.
the screenplay.
Yeah. So everybody's running. The aliens are invading. They're trying to figure out what to do. Gamera is in trouble, and the kids are on the spaceship. By the way, by this point, we're over halfway through the movie.
Yeah, and it's going by pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. No, that is one of the. It's very breezy, and just like, okay, not a lot has happened, but like we're moving through the plot, right? Like we've established our main characters, we've established the villains, and we've reestablished Gamera,
Right?
And we've established the problem, and that's where we're at. So Masayo and Jim on the spaceship watch as these people kind of just walk through. I don't entirely understand the perception of the aliens here, because they're very like, they just miss like all the stuff that Jim and Masayo do. I feel like they're way too like oblivious.
They
You
just
get what I mean?
let the kids just do anything as long as it doesn't harm the ship, until they realize it's a bad idea.
Right, and it's like, why would you do this from the beginning? Like,
Because they're stupid.
I feel like it was to prevent from scaring children, maybe. Like, instead of having the kids tied up, like, the whole time or something. Or, I don't know, it's probably just plot convenience.
I think it's just plot convenience and just for the sake of the adventure. I don't... Not that these movies are necessarily made to scare children, but I don't... There's horror elements to this movie, like with the Viras aliens. Toned down a bit from previous Gamera movies, partially because of AI TV. Things like the violence is toned down a bit, but it's still there. Like,
right.
The Viras aliens sever their own arms. Like the actual Viras boss cuts off all their heads at the end.
Which, like, and I even wrote in my notes, like, the hand coming off is a little funky, but, like, with the lighting and everything, it's also really unsettling.
Right, especially with, like, the whole eyes of the Viras aliens, which is really cool.
Yes, the lighting there. It's kind of you see that a lot in horror films, especially of the time. Onibaba does it a lot.
Yeah.
That stuff's really cool. The one thing is, I'm not a fan of the whole Scrubs. Like,
the costume design? Yeah, no. That's... Yeah. It's not working for them. The costume design's not working for them.
That's where the budget got cuts, the costume design. They just let the Boy Scouts of Japan donate their costumes, and then they just bought the cheapest stuff they had.
Yeah, and they recycled the Gamera suit from the last one.
Yeah. And then the money that AI TV gave them, that's how they made the Viras suit.
Man. And this got a loan. Just remember that. We don't know how much. I'm going to guess, if I had to guess, probably around like 100 million yen is my guess for how much. Maybe a bit less than that. I don't know. That's my guess. I'll find out someday. I'll look into getting more figures.
Speaking of finding out, Jim and Masao watch as these aliens, they interact with the aliens, and they're just kind of like, don't do anything stupid. And they're like, okay.
Don't kill us.
And then they see the aliens fly away on these corridors, which the Gamera series loves alien corridors, because they also focus a lot on the corridors in the next film too.
I don't remember the next film very well, so I'll wait and see.
Just pin that note, and when you see the scene,
I will not remember
oh my
this.
God.
I will not remember that.
I'll bring it up.
You don't even remember how many times we've talked. You think we only talked like 3 times this year?
It feels like that.
Oh my god, you're insane.
So they watch as the alien just kind of floats away, really funny, and then they try to do it and just kind of fall to the ground, very forcibly fall to the ground. It's okay, they're child actors.
It's fine, it's still funny.
It's still funny. So they just kind of walk through the corridors. They watch as the aliens control Gamera, and then Gamera goes off and does turtle things while our kids run around.
Yeah, eventually they discover an alien in a cage.
Well, they also find that the telepathic food generator.
Oh right, yeah. Well, it's not even necessarily a food generator. Like, it just gives them anything that's not going to blow up the ship.
Or harm anything, yeah. But yeah, they do find a mysterious squid-like creature, which I'm just going to say this, we don't normally talk about the effects, but the Viras suit is not up to par with anything. I think it's the worst suit in the whole Gamera series, actually.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, we're about 45 minutes, a little under 45 minutes in, and we see Viras here for the first time. Gamera's been sprinkled out.
I'll talk a little bit about my thoughts on the effects when we get to the fight, I think. I'll talk more about that. I have a bit to say on that.
Well, both Jim and Masao talk about releasing the squid creature, and it's like, why? They're like, oh, it's been captured too. We should let it out and help it. This is so goofy. Like,
hey, they're kids. They want to help a poor animal. I'd do the same if I were them.
If I'm on an alien spaceship and I see a squid that's out of water in a cage, it's staying in the cage.
You're cruel. You're
okay.
cruel. You're a horrible human being.
Speaking of cruel, the kids get chained up or strapped down as Gamera returns to stock footage and destroys a dam with Kojiro Hongo showing up.
And it's the best special effects footage in the movie.
It is. It very much is. And this is actually, I brought this up earlier, and I just wanted to, we do get more footage. Don't we get Gamera destroying Tokyo from Gamera the Giant Monster here too? Yeah. Again, with the different, they've toned it. It's like, I think it's blue. It's not blue. It's it's bluish.
It's purple. It's like purple.
But I do love the fact that there is so much English being said. Like, Jim says a lot of stuff in English. Various Japanese actors react in English. We have it's really cool to see all of that, and it really emphasizes the push for this to be an international film.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of is sad to think that this is what Daiei thought international audiences would look at and be like, yes, Japan is a well-developed society in film. Honestly, I almost feel like this is one of those examples of this is what you shouldn't have done in terms of what you brought over, distributed, and whatnot. Just as first impressions, I don't think it would have been. I don't think it was the best of ideas by any means.
Well, remember one of the two conditions of a film being greenlit for the funding was that it has to be an excellent film with international marketability. So this was excellent. Remember that.
How much you want to bet it's just an excellent pitch?
Is it even that?
On paper, this is an interesting story.
Sure.
For the most part.
Yeah, sure.
We get a lot of, after this scene, we get a lot of talking, not a lot, but a small amount of talking of what to do about the boys, what to do about Gamera and the aliens, and the boy's
Yeah,
parents.
fun fact, by the way, just to interject, you didn't actually need a completed script to get approval, by the way. Just saying.
That doesn't. I guarantee you, it's just you needed a pitch.
You needed a pitch. Sometimes you needed a script, but it wasn't mandatory.
Yeah, that tracks. So we get the whole like back and forth about what do we do? How do we save the kids? Do we save the kids? I don't know.
Yeah, and eventually the government decides against it. Or sorry, they decide to surrender. My bad. My brain.
And this is after the whole Masao and Jim do escape, and they get to contact Masao's sister, and they do talk, and they're like, "Just let us go," and they're like, "No, we're not going to do that." By the way, we're about an hour into the film, a little under. So we have. By the way,
we also have probably the first example of whiteface, because Jim's father is a Japanese guy playing a white dude.
Is that racist?
I don't know. I just thought it was interesting.
It is. It's a very interesting idea. I'm I think there's something to be had there.
This is the closest thing to a liberal thought in a Gamera movie I've seen.
We get more stock.
The conservativeness of Toho.
We do get more stock footage from Gamera the Giant Monsters the aliens watch. And then Masao and Jim do what they did with the sub and switch a couple things around to make things do the opposite.
Yeah, it's great. That would work.
I think it's really funny how after this, like when things continue to go wrong or start to go wrong, the virus alien men go to check on to see if Viras has escaped. At least in the subtitles, that's kind of what they allude to.
Well, it's like the kids tell them, "Oh, the kaiju escaped," and then they go looking for Virus.
Well, why are they worried? Because
it's their boss.
Okay, but like,
no. I see what you're saying.
I just don't get it. It don't make sense.
It's fun.
None of this makes sense. It doesn't matter.
My question is, why is the boss in the cage?
Yeah. No, that's like. Why is he in a cage? Why are they worried that he's escaped? Why, like, I don't get it. I don't get it.
Like, I'm fine with the twist that it's the boss. That works.
Yeah.
But why is he in the cage? What's that for?
I don't get it.
The film never elaborates on that.
No. And at this point, there's 12 minutes left in the film. What are they gonna do? They're gonna transport Masao and Jim back onto the beach, and the aliens are going to go after him, and then Gamera's going to save him. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah. After the kids escape, Gamera is freed from the aliens' control. Naturally, his first instinct is to destroy the ship.
Which is a good idea.
Yeah.
That's the first sense of logic in this film since the beginning.
Gamera low-key the smartest character in the movie.
Yeah, I think Gamera's the only one that really shows a lot of intelligence that makes sense.
Hey, the kids are intelligent.
Does it make sense, though?
They're intelligent.
It don't make sense. I win.
Look, none of this matters.
Okay. What happens next in the movie?
Viras is freed from his cage and cuts off all his subordinates' heads before merging together with them.
It's really disturbing, to be honest.
It's honestly really cool. I think that's awesome.
Also, why are the other virus aliens in human suits and not the boss?
Yes.
Good to know. Thank you very much. I do like how they merged together to become a giant Viras. I think that's cool.
That's fun.
I think Viras okay. So I'm gonna compare it to the rebirth version.
Mm-hmm.
I think Viras has so much untapped potential. I think Viras as a character originally has so much untapped potential that you could do Viras with a big budget really well.
Oh yeah, no, the concept is really cool and really fun. I love the concept for Viras.
And the way that Rebirth does it completely drops it. I think Viras has some sort... Does Viras even have...
I genuinely can only... I very vaguely remember Viras as like some sort of ancient alien. And it has something to do with the big Gyaos at the end.
Yeah.
That's really all I remember.
Oh, that's right. Isn't
Viras
Viras like trapped under the ocean in the...
It's in like the base that they have.
Yeah.
It's like a fossil or something.
And don't they like have to use the kid to resurrect it or something?
I don't even remember that.
I don't remember. It was awful. It was bad.
It was fine.
I'm tired of acting like Gamera Rebirth was good.
It was mid.
It was mid. It was okay at best. A hard okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Viras becomes big. Gamera and Viras fight. Gamera uses the spaceship as projectiles, which I really love that idea. I think that's a really smart way.
I mean, Viras does too. Like, the first thing he does in the fight is throw it at Gamera.
I love that. I think that's such a smart move.
I mean, it's also compensating for the lack of mobility in either suit.
Right. Now, that being said...
Oh, I was just going to say, that's probably the main thing I was going to complain about is, to be fair, this has kind of been a consistent trend in Gyaos and even Barugon, where the suits are very limited in their mobility. Gamera, because of the way his shell is molded into the suit, it makes him moving his arms around look really awkward because the rest of his body doesn't really... It moves a little, but some shots it really is just like incredibly stiff.
Right.
And Viras, just by the nature of his design and the reliance on wire work and whatnot, it's just the first few minutes of this fight is really stiff and kind of boring.
Yeah. Now, that being said, I really love how violent and physical the fight is. Like, it's not like the most mobile, but like they are getting like up close and personal with each other and fighting.
It does get better as it goes along, I think. I think it does get more fun.
I like this fight. I really enjoy. I think it's not like Gamera's greatest fight ever, but it definitely has a lot of fun. And apparently the reason Gamera gets like screwed up as much as he does is because they thought this was the last Gamera film.
Mm-hmm.
So they wanted to really add that like dramatic effect of like, will Gamera survive? Who knows?
Yeah. It's an okay fight.
I like how Gamera gets pierced, like Viras stabs Gamera. I think that's a really cool.
Yeah.
Like
Noriaki Yuasa had joked how he kind of thought the special effects staff hated him for making them include that in the movie.
Really?
Yeah, because it was like extra work for them.
Now that being said, I think the death, like speaking, I'm curious how long it took them to make it. The Viras freezing and then like Gamera throwing Viras, I love that like final kill.
Oh, that is a good effect too.
That's really cool.
That is a really cool effect.
My one problem is the moment that Viras is dead, all the kids cheer and Gamera flies away, and that's it. Like once Viras is dead, like they just end the film. It's over. It's done. Goodbye.
To be fair, is there really much in the way of like anything else to resolve at this point?
I mean, maybe we could follow up with the kids or something. I know that this is supposed to be a breeze, and it is a breeze. Absolutely. Like the film, like the 72 minutes is not entirely, it's not really wasted. There's one boardroom sequence. There's like 4 actual scenes with just talking. The rest is with aliens or Gamera or Viras. It's very quick. It's very brisk. but I do love it when a monster movie like ends like seeing what happened after the fact, the aftermath of with your main human characters.
Right, but here's the thing. You can't really do that in this film because the kids don't really learn anything. There's no real arcs. Yeah.
True. I guess that is true. Like there is no character there's no character development.
You'd kind of think the kids would go for like an arc of like going from being like these delinquent troublemakers. There's like crumbs of that given like they help save the day and whatnot. But it's not really an actual arc. It's just the plot.
Yeah. Now, Rex, do you have anything else you want to say about the film itself?
Not really. Not particularly, no.
Okay. Do you want me to go ahead? I'm trying to remember. Do we do cast and crew next, then rankings, then or final thoughts, then rankings?
Cast crew, yeah.
Okay. You want me to go ahead and do our cast and crew then? Okay, we've got Kojiro Hongo as Nobuhiko Shimada, who was in The Whale God, Gamera vs. Barugan, Daimajin, Gamera vs. Gauss, Yokai Monsters along with Ghost, Ghost Story The Peony Lantern, and Gamera Guardian of the Universe.
Top billed and barely in the movie.
True. Yeah, no, I remember Carl Craig was talking about how he got top billing and he's like in the movie for 3 minutes. And it was just because how popular his name was.
Yeah.
I think that's really funny. You have Michiko Yagaki, who played Moriko Nakatani. She has no other tokusatsu credits. Marie Atsumi, who played Junko Aoyama, who was in Ghost Story The Pit of Death. Junko Yoshido, who played Masako Shibata, was in Gamera vs. Jiger, Ultraman Ace, Ultraman Leo, Inazuman F, and Kamen Rider X. Yoshiro Kitahara played Masao's father, was in The Invisible Man vs. the Human Fly, Buddha, Gamera the Giant Monster, Gamera vs. Barugan, Gamera vs. Gauss, The Snow Woman, The Snake Girl, and the Silver-Haired Witch, Gamera or Japanese Ghost Story Theater, Kamen Rider X, Kamen Rider Amazon, Kikaider, Go, Robocon, Go Ranger, and Ultraman 80. Akiro Natsuki played Viras Alien Doctor. He was in Warning from Space, Gamera vs. Barugan, Gamera vs. Gauss, Ghost Story The Pit of Death, Zubat, Skyrider, and Ghost Hot Springs. Koji Fujiyama, who played the Self-Defense Force commander, was in The Whale God, Gamera the Giant Monster, Gamera vs. Barugan, Gamera vs. Zegra, Daimajin, Skyrider, Ninja Corps, Gekko, and Zubat. Riki Hashimoto, who played the Viras alien, was in The Whale God, Daimajin, Return of Daimajin, Wrath of Daimajin, Ghost Story, The Pit of Death, Yokai Monster Spook Warfare, and Ghost Story, Depth of Kasane. Carl Craig Jr. played Jim Morgan. Toru Takasuka played Masao Nakatani. Takada Munihiko played Jim's father, who was in Gamera the Giant Monster, Gamera vs. Gauss, Gamera vs. Jiger. Peter Williams played Dr. Dobby, who was in Giant Robo, Mighty Jack, and Ultra 7. As for your crew, you've got Kenjiro Hirose, the composer who worked on Gamera vs. Guiron, Gamera vs. Jiger, Gamera vs. Zegra, Conte 55 Great Space Adventure, and the TV version of Japan Sinks. Hidemasa Nagata was your producer who worked on Broomba, The Invisible Man vs. the Human Fly, Nezura, Gamera the Giant Monster, Gamera vs. Gauss, Gamera vs. Guiron, Gamera vs. Jiger, and Gamera vs. Zegra. Nissan Takahashi did your screenplay, who worked on Gamera the Giant Monster, Gamera vs. Barugan, Gamera vs. Gauss, Gamera vs. Guiron, Gamera vs. Jiger, Gamera vs. Zegra, Gamera the Super Monster, Thunder Mask, Electric Man, Zemborger, and wrote the book Gamera vs. Phoenix. Finally, Noriaki Yuasa as your director worked on Gamera the Giant Monster, Gamera vs. Barugan as the special effects director, Gamera vs. Gauss, Gamera vs. Guiron, Gamera vs. Jiger, Gamera vs. Zegra, Gamera the Giant Monster, The Snake Girl and the Silver-Haired Witch, Iron King, Electric Man, Zemborger, Ultraman 80, and was the editor for the trailer of Nezura. And with that, that's your casting crew.
Alrighty. On to our final thoughts, I suppose.
Sounds good to me.
Guess I'll go first. Gamera vs. Viras. Going into it, I was I wouldn't say I wasn't excited, but I wasn't exactly terribly hyped with this film. As last time, I've only seen this film once before, back when I first got the Arrow set, and this was kind of the point where I'm not really a fan of the Showa Gamera films, with the exception of Jiga Fire. Yeah, so I was kind of like, didn't expect to like this film this much. But I don't think it's great. I honestly did end up liking it a bit more than I expected to. So in that regards, it was a pleasant surprise. And, yeah. But it still just feels, compared to Gyaos and Barugon, it definitely still just feels like a downgrade.
Gotcha. Yeah, so for me, I was like you. Like, for me, when I rewatched the Gamera films when the Arrow video set came out, I was very disappointed with how the Gamera films ended up being. I didn't remember them being that bad. In fact, I remember saying at one point, I was like, these Gamera films are unwatchable.
Wow.
I don't necessarily believe that. Upon this rewatch, I too enjoyed it a little bit more than I did previously, which I'm very happy about.
Yeah.
Gamera versus Viras is a breeze to get through, while I do find the stock footage a little bit annoying, and it does stick out a little bit. It's not like a cardinal sin in this film.
In the theatrical cut, it's bearable. I think the first scene is completely fine. Second scene, it overstays its welcome a little bit, but it's not terrible.
I agree. It's not terrible. I think there's plenty of time in between the two primary sequences that it doesn't hurt the pacing and it doesn't slow down the film.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very important, especially when, like, a film like this, the plot's really simple and it doesn't have a lot to say. It focuses more on the children's narrative of how they're going to get through the situation and move on, you know? I think the final fight might go on a little too long, just by like a minute or two. I think it gets a little repetitive about midway through. I think watching, and this is something I know what you're going to say. You're going to be like, well, Elijah, what else do they have to do? But I find it really annoying to have our main characters just standing down like by a rock being like, go Gamera, yeah.
They're just commentating on the fight and that's it.
Yeah. I don't like that. I don't enjoy that. That's something I'm not a huge fan of. I get it. They don't have anything to do. That's just like a little pet peeve of mine. I think it's boring. And I do think it's a little obnoxious that the film doesn't really try to be much more than what it is. This film, like, Viras was the stepping stone for Nagata to do something he'd been wanting to do for decades. And I think it kind of falters because of that. Like, this was like a 15-year journey for him, and this is what we got. And I don't think that was really the greatest of films that he had wanted.
Right. Although I guess in saying this, so not to interrupt you for too long, but I suppose this is kind of where the Showa Gamera series really has finally fully come into itself. Yeah. I write here, and this is my last sentence in my final thoughts, is it's the last hurrah, although anticlimactic, for Gamera before it became a contracted obligation and Daiei fell apart, right? So after this in 1969, it was a contract obligation. 1970, I believe that's where the AI TV contract ended. And they went with the co-production with SeaWorld. And then in 70, like, that was Daiei going bankrupt. It was the last ditch attempt, for Daiei to have anything. So this is the absolute, like, the beginning of the end was 1967.
now we are fully embracing like this is the end, right? This is the last hurrah before everything goes belly up for Daiei, for Noriaki Yuasa, Masashi Nagata, Hidemase Nagata, the Japanese film industry, and Gamera. And it's disappointing because following this, I have very fond thoughts of Guiron, so I'm excited for whenever we do cover that film.
I am kind of excited because I'm really curious as to whether or not I'll like it.
I have found more entertainment and enjoyment from.
I really did not like Guiron when I saw it, which was disappointing.
Yeah, now, speaking of that, I think now is a good time to transition a little bit here and do our rankings before we close out this episode. Because I'm curious as to where I know for us, Gamera's been a very argumentative topic. After Barugon, you and I have been fighting ever since. So I'm curious where Viras
mainly because of Barugon.
Yeah. I'm curious where Barugon sits out of the 4 films we've covered so far. So do you want me to state my number 4 or do you want to go first?
Go ahead.
So at my number 4, Gamera the Giant Monster. If you go back and listen to that episode, I loathe the movie. It's boring. It's like really poorly put together. It's cool at some points, like the lighting's good, the cinematography can be good, but outside of that, it's very lackluster in many regards.
See, for my number 4, I'm going to have to agree with you for some reason and say Gamera the Giant Monster. I don't think it's as bad as you make it out to be, but yeah, that last rewatch, it really was kind of disappointing, in all honesty.
Yeah. Now, this is where I know for a fact we're going to get dicey.
I know what this is going to be. Okay.
My number 3 is Gamera versus Barugon. The movie's boring. The characters suck.
Yeah, you suck.
The only good thing about the movie is the cinematography. The cinematography it's the best looking Gamera film in terms of cinematography.
Easily.
But the film itself, the narrative is boring, and I can't stand it. And I've never been able to see. I've never been able to see what you people see in that movie.
God, what a fake fan! Jesus. At number 3, I've got the correct opinion with Gamera vs. Viras.
Why there?
Because I found it more enjoyable than the Giant Monster. But Gyaos and Barugon, more entertaining, more fun. Barugon has a plot. Gyaos has a plot. I like them more. Better fights too. Better everything.
At my number 2, oddly enough, I have Gamera versus Viras. And okay.
It is amazing that Viras is not my number 4. I'm going to be real. It's kind of amazing.
So here's my thing. Viras is not like a good movie. Like, the fact that it's number 2 is just the fact that I think Gamera the Giant Monster is like very much an indie, like thrown together patchwork film for a first time filmmaker. And I find Barugon boring. Viras is not boring, but it's not good. But I can at least be entertained by it, so that's why it beats Barugon. I think visually Barugon has everything against Viras. I think Barugon has visually against every single one of the other Gamera films.
Oh, 100% for the show, yeah.
But it's more entertaining, and I'm not bored. It might be like 3 minutes too long, right? Like 3 minutes is whatever. You know, it's not one of those films where it's like, oh, it's about 15, 20 minutes too long. No, it's like 3 minutes. And honestly, 3 minutes.
I'll agree with you that Barugon is a little too long. I'll agree there. That's the one thing I'll concede.
So, with that being said, what's your number 2, Rex?
Gamera vs. Gyaos. Our favorite little propaganda movie.
So why does it beat Viras now that you can like actually talk a little bit more?
Well, just from what I remember, I just find the plot itself a bit more engaging, in spite of the fact that it's a propaganda piece. There's just a little bit more going on with that whole road construction subplot in the film, for better or worse. And when it comes to the monsters itself, Gyaos is one of my favorite Gamera kaiju. And yeah, I just think it's generally just generally one of the more well-rounded Gamera movies, frankly. I think Barugon and Gyaos are the two most well-rounded ones of the series, at least in the Show era.
Good to know. So, Rex, my number one, with you talking about Gyaos, is Gamera versus Gyaos. It is propaganda. I think it visually has a really cool color palette, and I think it has some really cool stuff. Gyaos as a character, I think, is very cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's not boring. I think it has more going on than Viras. So it beats out Barugon and Giant Monster because it's not boring, and then it just beats out Viras because it has way more going on. It feels more like a movie. It doesn't feel like a Saturday morning cartoon, right? And that's important to me. And for you, Rex?
Well, I already spoiled it. Barugon is my number one.
Do you want to give a rundown of why your list is the way it is? More than you have?
I just think it's the best written of the Showa Gamera films, frankly. I think that's really what it comes down to. It's just the best written, and then on top of that, it's got some really nice cinematography at points that I really enjoy. Little let down by the fight, but from what I remember, that was probably could maybe trim like 5-10 minutes. But other than that, I really enjoy Barugon a lot, and that ranking, I pretty much hold the same opinion of it as when I first watched it. That I really like it, and yeah, that was Gamera vs. Virus.
Well, with that, Rex, I feel like we only have one last thing really to talk about.
And what is that?
Well, let me start by saying hello. I'm Elijah, and I have a Kaiju and Tokusatsu problem. Joking aside, I am Elijah Thomas. I'm a writer. I've written for GodzillaMovies.com and in Kaiju Ramen Magazine, Kaiju United, of which I'm the Chief Innovative Officer for, and my writing has also been featured in the book Giant Bug Cinema, a Monster Kid's Guide from Bear Manor Media, where I wrote about the movie Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. I've also been given the privilege to work with my good friends at Giant Monster BS on their second season as a creative consultant, covering independent kaiju films. Outside of writing and podcasting, I also served as a consultant on the Titanic Creations officially licensed Yongari articulated figure. I think there's still a few more left, so if you go to titanicreations.com/Yongari, you can order yours today. I have also had the privilege to work on bonus features for SRS Cinema. I have worked on Yuzo, The Biggest Battle in Tokyo, Liverleaf, War of the Ninja Monsters, Jiron vs. Gora, Hoshi 35, and a long list of movies coming soon. You can order these Blu-rays on srscinema.com, and definitely stay tuned for more announcements such as Outer Man, Wake Up the Death Treasure, and the Visual Bandit trilogy. I'm also a filmmaker and YouTuber. You can check out my stuff on my YouTube channel, ET13 Productions, where you can see some of my short films and old YouTube videos, along with a playlist that features all of my appearances on YouTube. I do plan on getting some new videos out eventually, so definitely check that out. You can also check out my action figure photography on my Instagram at ET13_productions, and my X, the artist formerly known as Twinner, thanks Danny, at the same handle. Now Rex, where can people find you at?
Well, dear listeners, you can find me on YouTube at Rexina, on Twitter at Rex_Xenomorph, and on Instagram, Rex_Xeno. And if you want to check out some of my writing, go take a look at the Tokusatsu Network.
And as for the podcast, don't forget to rate us on iTunes. That boosts our ratings and helps us get recommended to more people just like you. If you don't have an Apple device, which I don't blame you, that's a lie. I'm reading a MacBook right now. I'm reading this off of a MacBook. But you can rate us on Spotify. To stay up to date with all things Kaiju Conversation related, head over to www.kaijuconversation.com to find our episodes, social media, news, and updates. Follow us on Twitter at KAIJU_CONVERS. If you don't have Twitter, you can follow us on Instagram or like us on Facebook. If you're like me before podcasting and you don't have any social media, lucky you. You can email us at kaijuconversation@gmail.com, all lowercase, all one word, you know the drill. And now we are also available on Threads and Blue Sky at kaiju_converse. If you go to those social medias, you can find us out on there. And as always, we'll read your reviews on air for everyone to hear. We also have a Teespring store. Eventually, we'll have original artwork on there, but until then, you can sport our awesome logo on a t-shirt or maybe even a coffee mug. If you'd like to chat with us, check out our Discord server full of others that have similar interests to you. Most recently, we had a discussion about Sam Neill and his upcoming role in Godzilla Kong 3 and what that might include. It's a great community full of great people. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you can be notified anytime we upload a video. We sometimes post exclusives to the channel like bloopers for episodes or minisodes talking about news or other subjects. And a huge thanks to Rex for editing all of these episodes and all the other content we upload. His links can be found below. Along with Rex, we'd like to give a huge thanks and shout out to Danny DeManna of the Godzilla Novelization Project for his amazing vocals on our theme song. You can support him by following him on Twitter at Danzilla93_GNP or visit his website GodzillaNovelizationProject.com. And a huge thanks to Grattan Conwell from the podcast Giant Monster BS for composing the music for our theme song. You can support him by following the podcast on Twitter at Giant Monster BS or on any podcast platform under the name Giant Monster BS. And with that, we're going to wrap things up here. Thank you guys so much for listening. Season 6 is officially started. Episode 116, Gamera versus Viras. More Daiei coverage, more Gamera, more Nagata scandals. I'm so excited to see where this year will take us. This is a long episode, but it was worth it. So thank you all for listening, staying involved, listening to us all the way up to this point. Thank you, Rex, for joining me on another wild adventure. We're going to have so much fun this year. There's going to be a lot of fun coming.
Hell yeah.
And with that, I think we're going to wrap things up here. So thank you all for listening. And as always, please remember, life's too short to not talk big. Bye, guys.
Bye.
We are set, we are in debt. There's nothing to sweat. Life's too short now, baby. And not too big now, baby. Conversation. His name's Elijah, baby. And also Rex now, baby. We love those kaiju, baby. And you will too now.